Chapter 2103. Lu Tingxiao sounded a little displeased. The camera? Huh? What's wrong with the camera? Lu Tingxiao said, it's crooked. Lu Jingli said, okay, I was wrong. I'll point the camera at your wife now. Lu Jingli complained as he said, why aren't you worried at all? Your wife is so good at shooting. She even killed Guan Ziyao in seconds. Although I really want to see Cici win and slap those people in the face. But if she wins, won't she be fighting for Li Mayan? I'm so conflicted. At this moment, the young masters and ladies who were playing shooting around the shooting range all gathered around and watched with interest as the two women fought for a man. Meng Linlang had brought Ning Shi around the circle of the madams, wanting her to learn how to be the mistress of the family. Therefore, only a few people in the circle of madams knew about the relationship between Ning Shi and the Zhuang family. Among these young masters and ladies, except for Li Mayan, they only knew that Ning Shi was the hottest star in Hualand. In the upper class, some artists would be invited to liven up the atmosphere at occasions like this. As the most popular artist in Shengshi Entertainment, a subsidiary of Lu Enterprises, it was not surprising that Ning Shi was invited. But they didn't expect such a thing to happen today. Ning Shi and Li Mayan? Even with Ning Shi's status in the entertainment industry and her identity as Boss Ling, she was still overestimating herself if she wanted to get close to Li Mayan. Alyssa's shooting skills are very good. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to propose this competition. She has used this trick to drive away several rivals in love. Compared to the others, no one is a match for her. Eliza is proficient in everything. How can an actress be a match for a real noble lady like Alyssa? Alyssa's mother is a real royal descendant of Country F. Li Mayan listened to the surrounding people's evaluation of Eliza, but his heart did not waver in the slightest. He had seen too many young ladies like Eliza, who had been taught by the elites of an assembly line since young. They had flashy skills, but their souls were boring to the extreme. Thinking of this, Li Mayan looked at Ning Shi. Thinking that she would actually fight for him, he unconsciously clenched his fists by his side. For the past few months, he had been very careful and had not broken through that layer of paper. She was the only one he had no confidence in. However, he did not expect that after Eliza's disturbance today, he would actually reap such an unexpected reward. While countless thoughts flashed through Li Mayan's mind, the duel between the two had already begun. Everyone turned to look at the two of them. The process of the competition was that each person would fire one shot until 10 shots were fired. Then, the total score would be tabulated. The first shot, Alyssa 97 points, Ning Shi 96 points. The second shot, Alyssa 96 points, Ning Shi 95 points. The third shot, Alyssa 98 points, Ning Shi 97 points. After 3 consecutive shots, Ning Shi fell behind Eliza. The surrounding people all had an as-expected expression on their faces. Li Mayan, on the other hand, unconsciously stiffened his back. Ning Shi was a newbie, so her condition was not good, right? But it was still early. There were still 7 more shots. The competition continued. The fourth shot, Eliza 92 points, Ning Shi 91 points. The fifth shot, Eliza 89 points, Ning Shi 88 points. The sixth shot, Alyssa 94 points, Ning Shi 93 points. Looking at this number, everyone was dumbfounded. Chapter 2104. If no one felt that something was wrong at the start, then, by the sixth shot, everyone's eyes were filled with suspicion. Wasn't it too much of a coincidence? Ning Shi was lower than Alyssa by 0.1 points every time. The seventh shot, Eliza's mental state was probably affected, so she only scored 34 points. Ning Shi followed up with another shot, 33 points. Everyone's expression, were they hallucinating? Why did it feel like Ning Shi was losing on purpose? It must be an illusion. It was more difficult to score 0.1 points every time than to score 10 points every time. Next, the eighth shot, Alyssa 98 points, Ning Shi 97 points the ninth shot. Alyssa 55 points, Ning Shi 54 points the 10th shot. Alyssa obviously made a mistake and only scored 1 point, almost missing the target. Ning Shi, on the other hand, missed the target directly, 0 points. On the 10th shot, everyone watched helplessly as Ningxi deliberately missed a shot in the air. Everyone, if they still couldn't tell that Ningxi was losing on purpose, then they must be blind. Ningxi put the safety on the gun and casually tossed it to the waiter beside her. She looked up at Eliza indifferently and said, "I lost." With that, the woman in red dress left gracefully. You did it on purpose." Alyssa's face was flushed with anger. Li Mayan stood there in a daze. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, extinguishing all his excitement. Lu Jingli, who was doing the live broadcast, was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out. Fuck! Sister-in-law's skill in picking peach blossoms has reached the pinnacle. She clearly lost, but she slapped at Alyssa's face until it's swollen. "I'll be there soon." Lu Tingxiao hung up the phone. He didn't want to wait a moment longer. He wanted to see her. As the night deepened, almost all the guests had arrived. The atmosphere was getting more and more enthusiastic. The lawn was lit up like stars in the sky, giving off a dreamy feeling. Wow, it's so beautiful. In the past, Lu Tingxiao's birthday banquets were always held in hotels. It's boring and boring. I didn't expect it to be so romantic this time. I think it's for Mrs. Lu. One of the girls looked envious. I heard that Mrs. Lu will be appearing tonight as well. Is that true? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Is Lu Tingxiao really married? I don't want to believe it either. But the news is accurate, so there shouldn't be any mistake. In fact, there have been rumors since a long time ago. It's just that the Lus have been keeping too low of a profile. Even now, no one knows who Mrs. Lu is. I just want to check on Lu Jingli, and he personally said that his sister-in-law will be coming tonight. Oh my God, looks like I'm going to break up. It's not just you. Do you know how many women have fallen out of love? I don't know which woman is so lucky. I should say, I don't know which woman is so powerful to be able to soften a man like Lu Tingxiao. I've long heard that Lu Tingxiao spoils that woman to the heavens. Eliza had just been embarrassed and was still sulking. Ignoring Li Mayan's obstruction, she angrily walked up to Ningxi and began to question her. Ningxi, what did you mean just now? Are you trying to humiliate me and Brother Mayan? Hearing this, Ningxi raised her eyebrows with a puzzled expression. Humiliate? The one who won is you, Miss Lisa. Where did the word humiliation come from? Chapter 2105. This time, it was Lisa who provoked him first. Besides, if Li Mayan had smoothed things over just now, she wouldn't have been in a dilemma. She had been very busy during that period of time, and all her attention had been on Lu Tingxiao. Li Mayan had never acted out of line, so she hadn't noticed Li Mayan's strange behavior and only treated him as her aunt's best friend's son. It wasn't until just now, when she saw the way Li Mayan looked at her, that she realized something was wrong. And Eliza's attitude and actions confirmed her guess. If Li Mayan had smoothed things over just now, she wouldn't have done this. She would have found a chance to make things clear with Li Mayan in private. However, Li Mayan chose to stand by and watch Eliza's aggressiveness. Since that was the case, she could only use her own way to solve this once and for all. Lisa was so angry that she couldn't speak. How could Eliza be reconciled to this? She naturally had to find another way to get back at him. So she stared at Ningxi's stunning outfit and said, "Today is Mr. Lu's birthday. The main characters are Mr. Lu and Mrs. Lu. You're dressed like this to steal the spotlight. Do you have any basic etiquette as a guest?" Ningxi's outfit tonight was indeed too high profile and eye-catching. From the moment she appeared, many people had been secretly sizing her up, especially those young girls at the scene, not to mention the rich young masters in the circle. Hearing Eliza's words, everyone also felt that it was inappropriate for Ningxi to dress like this. Usually, big stars would be invited to such occasions to liven up the atmosphere. Ningxi wasn't the only one who came tonight. The other artists were very sensible and deliberately avoided the limelight of Mrs. Lu. They were dressed very low-key, but only Ningxi was dressed in an eye-catching bright red. Bright red was an orthodox color in Hua country. Usually, on such an important occasion, only the host could wear it. Guests would try their best to avoid it. Ningxi's outfit was indeed not appropriate. Several rich young ladies gathered together and discussed softly. Ningxi's outfit is indeed a bit too high profile. Isn't this a slap to Mrs. Lu's face? This is inevitable. No matter how famous she is just an actress after all. How would she know so many rules? Just then, a loud commotion came from the entrance. It was the main character of the night, Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao, who had always liked to wear dark colors, was wearing a bright maroon suit today, making him look even more handsome. Perhaps it was because today was his birthday and he was in a good mood. The man's expression was not so cold and stern, but a little more lively. "Boss Lu, happy birthday, Mr. Lu, happy birthday." Amidst the congratulatory and admiring gazes, the man nodded slightly and simply exchanged greetings with the guests. At the same time, he strode into the venue. The man's long legs didn't stop. Under everyone's gaze, he walked straight to the girl in the red dress, who was as dazzling as the sun. The man stood in front of the girl, his arm naturally wrapping around the girl's waist. He bent down slightly, his thin lips landing a precious kiss on the girl's soft lips. The girl's indifferent mouth instantly bloomed like a flower. She smiled slightly and said softly, "Happy birthday." At this moment, the man, who had always been as cold as an iceberg, had a faint smile in his eyes. "Thank you, madam." Chapter 2106. Above their heads were thousands of stars, and the colorful lights hanging all around gave the lawn a dreamy glow. In the middle of the venue, the handsome man and the dazzling girl in front of him stared at each other silently. This scene was as beautiful as a fairy tale. Seeing Lu Tingxiao holding Ningxi in his arms and kissing her tenderly, hearing Lu Tingxiao's words, and hearing the extremely affectionate word "madam," all the young ladies who were commenting on Ningxi's clothes just now were all dumbfounded. Eliza was still angry at the fact that Ningxi had overestimated herself and snatched a man from her. At this moment, her exquisite and sweet little face looked as if she had seen a ghost. She stared blankly at the two intimate people beside her. Li Min's expression was even more so. The woman beside Lu Tingxiao, whom he doted on to the bone, the legendary Madame Lu, was actually Ningxi. Ningxi's words earlier on were not an excuse to get out of the situation. It was true. She was really married. After a short moment of silence, the crowd burst into an uproar. "Oh my God! Ningxi is Madame Lu. Lu Tingxiao's wife is Ningxi? That's way too shocking." In that instant, everyone seemed to have suddenly understood why Ningxi was wearing such a color tonight. She was the main character, all right. Apart from her, no one else had the right to wear such a color and outfit. It was laughable that all of them were still dressed in such a low profile, afraid that they would steal Madame Lu's limelight. No one could steal Madame Lu's limelight. Lu Tingxiao naturally allowed the girl to hold his arm as he swept his gaze across everyone present and announced the start of the banquet. "Thank you everyone for coming today. Madam and I are very honored. I hope everyone has a pleasant evening." Pleasant, it was so pleasant to see that their idol was taken. Sob, sob, sob. Lu Tingxiao's fangirls who had specially come today were stuffed with a large amount of dog food and were almost about to cry. In the eyes of everyone, Lu Tingxiao had always been an aloof person. There were even many who thought that he liked men, who knew that he would amaze the world with a single brilliant feat when he displayed his affection. It was so brutal that it made one's insides tremble. How could this be? How could it be Ningxi? Although I admit that Ningxi is very beautiful in terms of status and family background, how can she be worthy of Lu Tingxiao? Exactly. If this was second young master's wife, it would be understandable. But this is the position of the Lu family's mistress. Unfortunately, no matter how unwilling he was, this was already a fact. Even if he didn't want to admit it, the beautiful couple not far away was really pleasing to the eye. A group of young ladies were muttering indignantly when another low voice came from the entrance. "Ah, it's General Zhuang," someone exclaimed. The old man's hair was white, but his body was strong and his spirit was hale and hearty. Even though he wasn't wearing a military uniform, he still had the aura of someone who came from the battlefield. The middle-aged man beside him had a similar aura, but it was sharper and colder, and his pair of eagle eyes had a terrifying luster. On Zhuang Zongren's left was Zhuang Liao Yuan, and on his right was Meng Linlang, who was wearing a cheongsam and looked as elegant as ever. Behind them was Zhuang Ke, who was wearing a custom-made dress, and Zhuang Rongguang, who was standing tall and straight in a military uniform. This family could be said to be extremely eye-catching. Instantly, everyone's eyes were drawn to them. Chapter 2107. It seems that the whole Zhuang family is here. It's true. When did the Zhuang family and the Lu family become so close? The whole Zhuang family is here for Lu Tingxiao's birthday? Everyone was a little suspicious. It's a little strange. One is in the military and the other is in business. They're just acquaintances, right? Especially old Master Zhuang. He has never been close to anyone, especially businessmen. Why would he come to a junior's birthday party in person? But it's hard to say. The Lu family is a force that even the higher-ups are afraid of. I'm afraid the Zhuang family is no exception. That's true. On the other side, Zhuang Ke spotted Ning Shi, the most dazzling girl in the crowd. She immediately ran to Ning Shi and greeted her intimately. Xiaoxi, Ke, you're here too. Ning Shi smiled sincerely when she saw Zhuang Ke. Zhuang Rongguang, who was in a military uniform, rushed to Ning Shi like a monkey and said with a proud expression, "Brother Shi, look, let me ask you, am I handsome or not? Do I look handsome?" Ning Shi looked at the young man who was becoming more and more energetic. Her eyes were full of admiration and she praised him generously. "You're indeed more handsome." Zhuang Rongguang was overjoyed when he heard what he wanted to hear. Meng Linlang gave her son a helpless look and then looked at Ning Shi's outfit. Her eyes lit up. "Shi, you look so good in this outfit. You're too plain. At your age, you should wear bright colors. Don't forget that you won't be able to wear them when you're my age." Seeing this scene not far away, the expressions of the young ladies became somewhat complicated. Why are all the Zhuang family members so close to Ning Shi? Do you even need to ask? It must be because of the Lu family. She is the young mistress of the Lu family, the mistress of the family. Damn, what kind of luck did he have? She really turned into a phoenix when she flew up the branch. It's so unfair. All of us here are much more powerful than her. What is the Lu family thinking? How could they let such a person marry into their family? Even if they don't think about themselves, they should think about the genes and bloodline of their descendants. Ning Shi doesn't deserve Big Brother Lu at all. Seeing that Ning Shi was so familiar with the people of the Zhuang family, the young ladies felt even more unbalanced. They gathered in groups of 3 or 4 and whispered. Only Li Mayan, who knew the inside story, had a bitter smile on his face. How could Zhuang Zongren not hear these voices? His face changed almost instantly. Grandpa Lu had a bad temper. Not to mention this matter involved his most beloved granddaughter. So he scowled and said angrily, "Who said my Cece doesn't deserve this brat from the Lu family?" The deep and hoarse voice was transmitted into everyone's ears. The moment Zhuang Zongren's slightly angry voice rang out, the entire venue was immediately enveloped by a wave of pressure. Those young ladies who were whispering to each other didn't even dare to breathe loudly. At the same time, they all looked at each other in shock. What did General Zhuang just say? My Cece? At this time, Yin Rui came forward with a smile on her face to smooth things over. "Mr. Lu, don't say that. Xiaoxi is your granddaughter." Even Master Xianjing said that Xiaoxi will bring prosperity to her husband and family. It's the blessing of our Lu family that we can marry a daughter-in-law like Xiaoxi. Chapter 2108. Upon hearing Yin Rui's words, the young ladies who boasted about their family backgrounds were all stunned. Old Zhuang's granddaughter. Ning, she is General Zhuang's granddaughter. Damn, how is that possible? So, Ning, she did not transform into a phoenix. She was a phoenix to begin with, okay? This was the #1 aristocratic family in the capital city, a top-notch military and political family. Which of the young ladies present could compare to her? Alyssa claimed that her mother had the blood of the royal family of Country F. But everyone knew that the so-called royal family was just a name. They had no real power at all. The real power lay in the military. Alyssa listened to the discussions around her. When she heard her name being compared to Ning Shi's, her arrogant expression turned into one of disbelief. This woman and the Zhuang family. How could it be? No one would have thought that this girl, who had made her way to where she was today, will have such a terrifying identity and background. She had even married into a family like the Liu family. This Ning Shi is really unfathomable. Aren't you hiding it too well? Isn't that right? Who would have thought that she had such a relationship with the Zhuang family? Speaking up to this point, the young ladies had a change of opinion. If Ning Shi wanted to use these connections to climb up the social ladder, she could easily do so. But she had kept a low profile until now. It was just like what Ning Shi had said when she was interviewing for Noble Perfume. True elegance and nobility did not come from using the name of a luxury brand, twirling the expensive accessories on one's wrist, or showing off one's beauty and knowledge. True elegance was that even if one's clothes were ragged and unkempt, one's nobility could not be concealed. True elegance was that even if one hid her identity and never showed off, the bloodline in her bones could not be erased. Some of the people who came today were madams in the circle. They seemed to have long known the relationship between Ning Shi and the Zhuang family. At this moment, they were also chatting with Meng Linlang and Ning Shi. They were very kind and friendly to Ning Shi. It seemed that they were very familiar with each other. Yin Rui and Liu Chongshan's love for their daughter-in-law was obvious. Now that things had come to this point, those young ladies who were unwilling to give up had all lost their temper. Come on, don't be so sour. They're a perfect match, a match made in heaven. Yin Rui's words quelled old Master Zhuang's anger, but there was still some lingering anger on his face. When this old man, who had been in the military for half his life, got angry, no one could calm him down. When Yin Rui and Liu Chongshan were embarrassed, and even Ning Shi, Liu Tingxiao, and Zhuang Ke were helpless, a soft voice came from the side. Great-grandpa. When the old man saw the obedient and cute little darling in front of him, his anger instantly disappeared and turned into a face full of happiness. His cold face was filled with love. Little treasure, quickly come to great-grandpa's side. Xiao Bao, the fully automatic mobile fire extinguisher, walked over obediently. The old and the young chatted happily, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. Seeing that the old man was finally not angry, Ning Shi and Liu Tingxiao looked at each other and smiled, and they heaved a sigh of relief. Zhuang Rongguang, on the other hand, was extremely jealous and gritted his teeth at the side. Why was this little burden so favored? The next update will be a little later. Everyone, go to sleep first. Chapter 2109. On the lawn, the melodious birthday song sounded, and Liu Jingli and Zhuang Rongguang slowly pushed out a huge birthday cake that was more than 10 stories high. The audience applauded and sang the birthday song, wishing Liu Tingxiao's birthday and the family of 3. Xiao Bao and Liu Tingxiao were wearing parent-child outfits today, and the father and son were wearing the same color as Ning Shi's. The family of 3 stood together, which was very pleasing to the eye. Accompanied by candlelight and music on the huge LED screen, there were pictures of Ning Shi, Liu Tingxiao, and Xiao Bao getting along with each other. Almost all of those photos were taken by Liu Jingli. Even Ning Shi herself didn't know when he had secretly taken those photos. There were pictures of Liu Tingxiao wearing a bright royal blue suit for the first time, pictures of Ning Shi cooking in the kitchen, and pictures of Xiao Bao and Liu Tingxiao helping her. There were even pictures of Xiao Bao's school masquerade party, where Ning Shi dressed up as Little Red Riding Hood, and Xiao Bao and Liu Tingxiao dressed up as Little Gray Wolf and Big Gray Wolf, which made the audience exclaim. No one could imagine that the aloof Liu Tingxiao would do such a thing, wearing cute Big Gray Wolf clothes and accompanying his son to the school masquerade party. In the picture, there was a family of 3. The girl was charming and lovely, and the little boy was cute and silly. Although the man was expressionless as usual, his eyes were full of gentleness. Liu Jingli looked at the stunned expressions of those people, and he was so happy. Ha ha! I finally have a chance to show off all the dog food I've eaten all these years. Lu Jingli crazily showed off his dog food, and as he wished, all the single dogs present were stuffed to the point of vomiting. Second young master, that's enough. Stop it. Do you have any humanity? Give us single dogs a way out. The crowd was full of envy. Sigh. The three of them look like a real family when they stand together. I can't tell that Ningxi's mother is a stepmother at all. This woman can't be underestimated. She even managed to get the Lu family's young master. You should know that this young master is very difficult to deal with. In addition to envy, there were also some unpleasant voices. Someone sighed and said, although they are a good match, I don't think Ningxi will have a good life in the future. After all, it's hard to be a stepmother. That's true. She has become someone's stepmother at such a young age, and it's even in such a big family. Moreover, the young master is so spoiled. If she doesn't handle the relationship well, the conflict will not be light. No matter what, she's not his biological mother. Although he had already expected these sounds, they still sounded unusually ear-piercing. Lu Jingli saw that little Bun's expression was gradually changing, so he hurriedly switched to another CD. He was prepared to play some interesting photos of his older brother when he was young. He wanted to trick his older brother, lighten the atmosphere, and change the topic. The LED screen turned black, and the image of the family of three disappeared. However, it quickly lit up again and began to play another set of photos. Lu Jingli smirked. Brother, there are pictures of you naked when you were young. Lu Tingxiao gave his younger brother a sidelong glance. Lu Jingli was so scared that he hugged his head. No. The furthest he could go was just a little bit of his stomach. I know that this kind of photo can only be shown to your wife. Sister-in-law, don't worry. I'll secretly send it to you later. Chapter 2110. Ningxi glanced at Dumbass, speechless. She really wanted to see Lu Tingxiao's childhood photos. Would he look exactly like Xiaobao? It was rare for second young master to show off boss Lu's childhood photos. Everyone looked up at the screen with interest. A photo slowly cut in. The background was a hospital with a sign for obstetrics and gynecology. A pregnant girl was sitting on a bench next to it. Lu Jingli's expression changed the moment he saw the photo, because the pregnant girl in the photo was Ningxi. Although the girl's face was much younger than it was now, it could still be seen that it was Ningxi. While he was stunned, countless photos flashed on the screen. They were all photos of Ningxi with her pregnant belly. The hospital on the road, in the park, huh? What's going on? Is that Ningxi in the photo? She looks very young, but should be Ningxi. But why is she sitting in front of the obstetrics and gynecology department with a pregnant belly? Fuck. Lu Jingli's face darkened. He was about to pull out the CD when a big hand stopped him. If he stopped the video now, it would only cause more speculation and he would not be able to explain himself. At this moment, Ningxi's face was completely pale after seeing the photo. She was in a trance. Lu Tingxiao stopped Lu Jingli from pulling out the CD. He reached out and hugged the girl's slightly trembling shoulders. It's okay. Lu Tingxiao looked at those photos attentively. He watched Ningxi walk alone, go shopping, and go to the hospital alone with Xiaobao in her arms. His brows were filled with an indescribable expression, and he unconsciously tightened his arms around the girl. Ha ha. At this moment, a shrill female voice came from the crowd. A woman in a waitress uniform stumbled out of the crowd and rushed to the big screen. She screamed crazily. What daughter of a rich family? What daughter of God? This woman was pregnant by a wild man at the age of 18, and she still pretended to be pure and noble in front of you. She's a piece of trash. She's a shameless bitch. The crowd was even more shocked when they saw Ning Xueluo. Ah, that woman looks like Ning Xueluo. Yes, it's her, the adopted daughter of the Ning family, the one who was recently kicked out of the Ning family. Due to Ning Xueluo's recent incident, many people present recognized her. Thinking of her relationship with Ning Shi, everyone believed those photos even more. If it was Ning Xueluo, it would be normal for her to know Ning Shi's secrets. Did she sneak in to take revenge on Ning Shi? Who would have thought that such a big thing would happen at Lu Tingxiao's birthday party? Lu Tingxiao's wife, The matriarch of the Lu family had such a scandal exposed. Pregnant out of wedlock at 18. Oh my God, no way. Was Ning Xiaoluo telling the truth? Ningxi got knocked up by a wild man when she was 18? Does the Lu family know about this? Does Lu Tingxiao know about it? Of course you don't know. Otherwise, how could he marry such a woman? It was too terrifying. As expected, the private lives of women in the entertainment circle are so messy that it's scary. Chapter 2111. The noise and discussion around them grew louder and louder. Lu Tingxiao looked at these so-called shocking photos. His expression did not change at all from the start to the end. He looked at Ning Xiaoluo calmly and said quietly, "Thank you, Miss Ning, for bringing Xiaoxi these precious memories today." What? Precious memories? Ning Xiaoluo was stunned for a moment. In the next second, she heard Lu Tingxiao continue. "The wild man Miss Ning is talking about is me." After a moment of strange silence, everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Huh? WH. What? What does Lu Tingxiao mean? The wild man is him. Ning Xiaoluo's mind was in a mess. Her eyes were filled with disbelief and fear. What did you say? CEO Lu, this woman is obviously pregnant with a bastard child. How could it be? Lu Jingli rolled his eyes and laughed coldly. Ha! This lady, first you called my brother a wild man, then you call my little treasure a bastard child. I admire your courage. Lu Jingli's words caused an even bigger uproar. Little treasure? Lu Jingli means that the child Ning she was pregnant with was little treasure? Damn! Little treasure's biological mother is Ning Shi? Just now, Ning Xiaoluo said that Ning Shi was 18 years old. According to the timing, it really matches. In the midst of the noisy discussion, Lu Tingxiao's cold gaze suddenly swept across everyone present. That terrifying pressure came from all directions, and immediately, everyone subconsciously fell silent. The entire venue was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. After a while, Lu Tingxiao said, "Everyone, I'm sorry. Because of my negligence, I've caused some unnecessary misunderstandings. Ning Shi and I have known each other for a long time, but because of some misunderstandings, we were separated for a few years. After Xiaoxi returned to the country, we got back together again." Lu Tingxiao paused, then continued, "Little treasure is born of me and Ning Shi." When she heard this, Ning Xiaoluo was stunned at first, then she laughed uncontrollably. "Ha ha, CEO Lu, I didn't think that you would actually say that a bastard child is yours just to save face. It's really an eye-opener." Lu Jingli's tone was as if he was looking at an idiot as he said faintly, "Miss, your stupidity is the real eye-opener. My brother planted the seed himself. How could he not know? Previously, due to some procedures, my sister-in-law and Xiaobao did a DNA test. Do you think everyone is as stupid as you? This is impossible. That's impossible." Ning Xiaoluo's back stiffened, but her tone was firm. Lu Jingli raised an eyebrow. "Oh, impossible. Miss, why are you so sure that it's impossible?" Ning Xiaoluo was suddenly speechless. Obviously, she could not tell him the reason. She was the one who had drugged Ning Shi. She was the one who had arranged for the two gigolos. How could this be? No, that's not right. At that time, the two gigolos said that when they arrived, they realized that Ning Shi had gone into the wrong room. The person who had sex with her was a stranger. Could it be? Could that man be Lu Tingxiao? When she thought about this, Ning Xiaoluo's face turned pale and her body started to tremble violently, as if she had just found out something extremely terrifying. This possibility was simply tearing her apart. At this moment, an old man suddenly walked out from the crowd. Chapter 2112. At this moment, an old man suddenly walked out of the crowd. He looked at Ning Xiaoluo with extreme displeasure and said sternly, "Miss, I see that you're still so young. How can you create such rumors and slander the innocence of others out of thin air? I did the paternity test between Mrs. Lu and Xiaobao myself. Xiaobao is 100% Mrs. Lu's biological child. If anyone has any questions, feel free to come to me." The person who spoke was the old director of the Imperial Military Hospital. He was the one who treated the head of state. His words were undoubtedly a symbol of authority. As soon as Director Zhao stepped out, everyone's doubts were dispelled, and they came to a sudden realization. Zhuang Liaoan watched as Director Zhao stepped forward, then glanced at the old man beside him, who had been calm the entire time. He finally understood how Lu Tingxiao had convinced the old man back in the hospital, and why the old man had accepted Xiaobao so easily. So that was it. The similarities between Xiaobao and Ning Shi, the intimacy between mother and son, and Xiaobao's shooting talent, which was the same as the Zhuang families, were all explained. The discussion around them suddenly became louder. No one had expected the truth to be like this. At the same time, the way they looked at Ning Xiuo changed. It's true. Xiaobao's biological mother is really Ning Shi? Holy shit. No wonder. I was wondering why the mother and son got along so well. They were like real mother and son. It turns out that they are biological children. This Ning Xiuo is so funny. She came here to sow discord without knowing anything. She even called Lu Tingxiao a wild man. She called the little prince a bastard. Ning, she is also quite pitiful. Not only was she swapped, but she also had such a shameless person who took her place. Her parents are also unreliable. No wonder the Zhuang family only recognizes Ning, Shi, and completely ignores the Ning family, and Ning Xiueluo still ignores her. This kind of person should be killed by a car. It's the first time I've seen such a vicious woman. She killed her adoptive mother's fetus, and she's still not reconciled. Seeing that Ning, she's living a good life now, I'm afraid she's not reconciled. She's going to continue to harm Ning, Shi, and create such vicious rumors on an occasion like today. It's as disgusting as maggots in one's bones. There were disgusted and disgusting gazes all around, as if they were looking at a pile of disgusting maggots crawling on garbage. Ning Xiueluo's face went blank. Her legs gave way, and she fell to the ground. In the past, in order to obtain the Ning family, in order to fight over Su Yin, she had racked her brains. But in the end, Lu Tingxiao and Ning Shi got together. The person who slept with Ning, she was Lu Tingxiao? What made her even more incredulous was that Ning Shi's child had been killed by a car. Why was this happening? The child didn't die? How could it not be dead? How could this be? No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't figure out how things had turned out this way. Originally, she was prepared to die with Ning Shi, so she risked defending the Lu family to make a scene. Anyway, she had nothing left. She could never let Ning Shi sit in the position of Mrs. Lu with peace of mind. But now, it's over. Everything was over. At the entrance of the venue, several uniformed policemen walked in solemnly and walked straight in the direction of Ning Shi. Miss, you're suspected of drug smuggling and participating in many illegal activities abroad. Please come with us. End of update. Countdown to the finale. Last wave of monthly votes. Chapter 21:13. Lu Tingxiao knew that Ning Shi valued affection the most. She didn't kill Ning Xiueluo for the sake of her adoptive parents. But that woman was still unrepentant. Since Ning Shi couldn't do it, he would do it. Late at night, the birthday party finally came to an end after all the guests had left. As soon as the party was over, Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan stopped Lu Jingli. Jingli, what's going on? Is Ning Shi really Xiaobao's mother? Yin Rui asked anxiously. Lu Jingli nodded seriously. That night 7 years ago, the girl who was with my brother was actually sister-in-law. At that time, sister-in-law was drugged by Ning Xiueluo. Originally, Ning Xiueluo had arranged for someone to ruin sister-in-law's innocence, but sister-in-law accidentally walked into the wrong room and entered my brother's room. Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan looked at each other. They didn't expect that there would be such a coincidence in this world. Well, as you know, my brother was also drugged at that time. He and my sister-in-law were delirious and had no memory of what happened that night. My brother and I found out the truth nearly 2 years ago. Then we did a paternity test and confirmed that our guess was right. The girl who was with my brother that night was indeed my sister-in-law. However, because what happened back then had caused too much harm to sister-in-law, my brother didn't dare to confess to her that it was him. That's why he didn't tell her the truth until Ning Shiluo came out today. Then Lu Jingli explained to them why Ning Shi got pregnant and why she didn't abort the child. The more Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan listened, the angrier they became. Ning Shiluo is insane. Fortunately, it was your brother. If not, Yin Rui couldn't imagine it. It was a great blow to my sister-in-law. She has been living in the shadow for years. She kept rejecting my brother, not because she wanted to play hard to get. It was because of this that she refused to accept any man. Lu Jingli said seriously. Hearing their son's words, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui were full of guilt. Yin Rui sighed. Xiaoxi is a good girl. It's not her fault. As Yin Rui spoke, her face lit up again. Now it's great. Everyone is happy. It was great that Xiaoxi was Xiaobao's biological mother. Xiaobao will be so happy. Hearing this, Lu Chongshan frowned and said in a low voice, but Jingli just said that Xiaoxi has always hated that man. Now that she knows that man is Ting Xiao. At this point, the three of them fell into silence. Dear Town, Flower House. When they got home, Ningxi finally had a chance to talk to Lu Tingxiao alone. In the courtyard, the two of them stood quietly under a bush of roses. Ningxi's expression was a little fatigued. Today was the first time she had made an official appearance as Mrs. Lu. She had not expected so many things to happen, but fortunately, everything had been resolved without any mishaps. Ningxi sat down on a chair. Lu Tingxiao, how did you convince Director Zhao to help you? After she woke up from her vegetative state, apart from Annie, Director Zhao had been taking care of her body. Therefore, she could be considered to be familiar with Director Zhao. She knew that he valued his reputation and professional integrity the most. He would never cheat for others. Lu Tingxiao must have spent a lot of effort to convince him. Chapter 21:14. Hearing Ningxi's question, Lu Tingxiao's fingers tightened slightly, and he remained silent for a while. He had expected this. Although everyone believed that Xiao Bao was her biological son, Ningxi thought it was arranged by him. After all, Ningxi was the least likely person to believe this fact. Sweetheart. Seeing that the man didn't speak, Ningxi looked at him suspiciously. At this moment, the aura around the man had frozen into ice, but his body seemed to be injected with turbulent volcanic magma, almost burning him up. Ningxi noticed that something was wrong with Lu Tingxiao, and her expression became slightly solemn. What's wrong? What's wrong? The roses above their heads withered in the night wind. She didn't know how long it had been. The man finally said, Xiaoxi, I didn't arrange it. Director Zhao's words are true. Ningxi's mind went blank for a second, as if she couldn't understand what Lu Tingxiao meant. What? I did a paternity test for you and Xiao Bao, and the results were true. Lu Tingxiao took a deep breath, took out a report from his arms, and handed it to the girl. Xiaoxi, you are indeed Xiao Bao's biological mother. Ningxi took the report from Lu Tingxiao and stared at the results at the end of the report dully. The next second, her pupils suddenly contracted and her mind went blank. Based on the test results of the 19 STR loci, it could be seen that Ningxi's genes met the genetic conditions of being Lu Qingyu's biological mother, and the probability of their parentage was calculated to be 999,999. According to the results of DNA analysis, Ningxi was Lu Qingyu's biological mother. How? How could it be? Ningxi opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. Lu Tingxiao seemed to be afraid that he would lose the courage to speak again, so he immediately continued. Xiaoxi, Xiao Bao, is our child. He is our child. In fact, the reason why Ning Shuo could appear so smoothly was partly because he deliberately connived with her. In this way, he forced himself not to escape anymore. She felt as if she was in a dream, and everything in the dream was upside down. Her brain was in a mess, and she couldn't tell whether it was a dream or reality. How could it be? My child, the child is dead. Lu Tingxiao's thin lips tightened. Although I still don't know why. The truth is that he is not dead. He is Xiao Bao. He's little Bao. That child is little Bao. Little Bao is my child. Ningxi was in a trance. Lu Tingxiao. Yes, it's our child. Our. Lu Tingxiao closed his eyes and said in a trembling voice, I'm sorry. Xiaoxi, I'm sorry. I've known about this for more than a year, but I can't say it to you. I can't tell you. The one who hurt you, the one who made you feel pain and despair for so long, is me. I was afraid that you would leave me. That proud man actually said the word afraid to her at this moment. Sorry, that person was me. After the man said this, he just stood there quietly, the light around him dimming, like a person waiting for the sentence of death. And in an instant, all the vitality had been sucked out. Chapter 21:15. Time slowly ticked by. Lu Tingxiao's face turned paler and paler, and his blood turned colder and colder. His fingers were clenched into fists. At this moment, a burst of sweet breath suddenly assaulted him. His cold lips suddenly softened. That warm voice with a trace of salty tears, pressed against his lips, sounded in this endless night. Fortunately, it's you. In this world, there's nothing more beautiful than this. The flames subsided, and the ashes turned into soil. Suddenly, flowers blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Lu Tingxiao hugged the girl in his arms tightly and kissed her deeply. He wanted to melt the person in his arms into his bones and blood. This was the most beautiful words he had heard in his life. The most beautiful words. His girl always moved and surprised him time and time again. Under the moonlight, the two quietly snuggled together. I'm sorry, I should have told you earlier. Lu Tingxiao kissed the top of the girl's head. She nodded in agreement. Yes, if you had told me earlier, we wouldn't have been so conflicted. You didn't care when you found out about me. Why would I leave you because of this? Besides, it's not anyone else, it's you, my husband. I can't be more than happy. Besides, you were also cheated by Lu Jingli back then. Lu Jingli, who was hiding in the corner and eavesdropping, thought to himself, how can my baby get shot in the back? Well, at such an exciting moment, he might as well get shot in the back. Fortunately, Xiao Cici did not divorce his brother, otherwise he would be dead. Listening to the girl's gentle words, Lu Tingxiao felt as if his whole body was soaked in warm water. His internal organs that had been burned just now quickly recovered, and his heart was filled with joy as if he had survived a disaster. It's my fault. Ningxi knew and understood Lu Tingxiao's feelings too well. Because he cared too much about someone, even the smartest person would fall into such a state of anxiety. There's another reason I didn't tell you, Lu Tingxiao said in a slightly low voice. What is it? Ningxi subconsciously felt that what Lu Tingxiao was going to say next should be very important. I've been looking into Xiaobao's matter. I want to find out who sent Xiaobao to the Lu family and what his purpose was. Ningxi's eyes lit up. Have you found anything? Lu Tingxiao's tone deepened. Not yet, but I found an important clue. I found out that a part of the hospital surveillance footage was cut out. As long as we can restore this part of the footage, we might be able to find out who the culprit is. Originally, I planned to tell you everything after the truth is revealed. If everything goes according to plan, the footage should be restored in a few days. Ningxi looked serious. Who could it be? Lu Tingxiao was silent. Even he had no clue about this. Mom, a voice suddenly came from behind. Ningxi abruptly turned around, and then saw Xiaobao standing nervously behind her, his big eyes staring at her without blinking. Looking at the little bun in front of her, Ningxi's eyes suddenly turned red. Baby, Xiaobao wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and immediately threw himself at Ningxi. Mom, are you really my mom? Did Mommy give birth to Xiaobao? Well, yes, I'm Xiaobao's mother. My mother gave birth to Xiaobao. As soon as she finished speaking, she felt her shoulder wet and her heart ached. Is it true? Xiaobao raised his red eyes and stared at his father in front of him. His eyes were as fragile glass. Chapter 21:16. Lu Tingxiao squatted down and rubbed his son's little head with his broad palm. It's true. You're your mother's and my child. After getting his father's affirmation, the little fellow's flickering eyes suddenly shone like a bright pearl. His gaze was unusually firm. Xiaobao knew it. From the first time I saw Mommy, I knew that Mommy was Xiaobao's mommy. Ningxi looked at the adorable little bun in front of her, and her eyes became slightly wet. She excitedly rubbed the little bun into her arms. Oh, baby, quickly pinch me. Am I dreaming? I actually gave birth to such a cute, adorable, intelligent, and talented baby. I'm really amazing. The little bun didn't pinch Ningxi. Instead, he kissed Ningxi's cheek with sparkling eyes. Xiaobao also feels like he's dreaming. Mommy, who shines like a princess and is as beautiful as a rose, is actually Xiaobao's mommy. Xiaobao is so happy. Xiaobao is also amazing. Looking at the mother and son, the corners of Lu Tingxiao's mouth turned up. He chuckled softly, and his brows were full of tenderness. As for Lu Jingli, who was hiding in the dark, he was about to vomit to death. Fuck, that's enough, you two. How could you boast like that? He had been so worried and rushed over to save the situation, but in the end, he had come to be abused. All right, the two at home were still anxiously waiting for him. He had to hurry and report the good news. Late at night, in the bedroom, Ningxi gently sang to coax the little bun to sleep. The little fellow clutched the corner of her clothes sleepily and didn't let go. Ningxi leaned over and kissed the little bun's forehead. Baby, sleep. Mommy will always be here. Good night. The little fellow murmured in a daze, Mommy, good night. The little bun rubbed his eyes and looked at Lu Tingxiao. He murmured again in a daze, Good night. Daddy. Lu Tingxiao suddenly froze when he heard the word daddy from Xiaobao, as if he couldn't react at all. Looking at Lu Tingxiao's rare, stunned expression, Ningxi raised her eyebrows slightly and chuckled. Sweetheart, don't tell me this is the first time Xiaobao has called you daddy? Lu Tingxiao. It was indeed the first time he had been called daddy. Ningxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is it really the first time? Lu Tingxiao. Yes, he was in such a miserable state. This seemed a little tragic. Ningxi held back her laughter and kissed Lu Tingxiao's lips to comfort him. Don't be sad. Xiaobao will definitely start to call you in the future. Lu Tingxiao leaned over and kissed her back. Yes, thanks to madam. Ningxi raised her head and looked at the man beside her. She blinked and suddenly said, Lu Tingxiao, let's find a time to make it public. Lu Tingxiao was startled when he heard this. Oh, that's exactly what I meant. I want to make it completely public. Lu Tingxiao's throat tightened. Are you all right? Ning, she analyzed. My fan base is stable now, and I can start to transform. Announcing my marriage at this time won't have much impact on me. Instead, it's good for my transformation. Lu Tingxiao's voice was slightly hoarse. Okay. Ning, she smiled and kissed her sweetheart's handsome face. Then I'll start preparing now. If everything goes well, after I finish my work and sign the contract with Shen Mian, I can start preparing. Thank you, madam. Chapter 21:17. After the birthday party, Ning, she invited Tang Lang, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiaoxiao out for a big meal. Actually, the big meal was just an excuse. She just wanted to show off to the three singles that she had given birth to such an adorable son. Also, she wanted the three of them to do her a favor. She wanted to see if they could find out who had sent Xiaobao to the Lu family. If even Lu Tingxiao couldn't find out who it was, no one in the world could. But it was good to have more hope. After that, Ningxi and Lu Tingxiao got busy, while waiting for Lu Jingli's news. The recovery of that surveillance video seemed to have encountered some trouble, and there was no breakthrough for a long time. In addition, Xiaobao was sick and had a fever during this period, so Ningxi's mood was more or less affected. As long as that incident was not solved, she would never be at ease. After all, she didn't even know whether the other party was a friend or a foe. Why did that person know that Xiaobao was Lu Tingxiao's son when she and Lu Tingxiao didn't know? And why did that person send Xiaobao to the Lu family? If the person who sent Xiaobao back to the Lu family was someone who knew the truth, it was purely out of kindness and good intentions. There was no reason for them to deliberately hide their identity. There were too many unexplainable mysteries about this incident. As Ningxi thought about these things, she gently patted Xiaobao, who was blushing on the bed. She glanced at the thermometer and felt even more frustrated. 385, he still has a fever. Lu Tingxiao held Ningxi's shoulders and comforted her. Don't worry, The doctor said that children are prone to colds and fevers in this season. It's just a minor illness. Ningxi nodded. I know, but she was still troubled by that incident, and it was inevitable that she would be affected. Seeing Ningxi's troubled look, Lu Tingxiao sighed. He regretted telling her so early. I heard from Lu Jingli that the surveillance footage will be repaired in 3 days at most. Ningxi took a deep breath. Okay, everything would be revealed in 3 days. However, before Lu Jingli could get the results, something happened to Xiao Bao. He had thought it was just a common cold and fever, but the fever kept coming back. Xiao Bao had been like this before because he was traumatized. Ever since Ningxi appeared, he hadn't been like this for a long time. But now, it seemed that a similar situation had occurred again. He had a fever that could not be cured. This time, it was useless even if Ningxi stayed by Xiao Bao's side. In the room, everyone's expression was somewhat solemn. Lu Jingli grabbed his hair anxiously. It doesn't make sense. Xiao Bao just found out that Xiaoxin is his biological mother and is happy. He has been happy these days. It's impossible for him to have a high fever because of psychological factors. Dean Zhao said in a deep voice, I've already done a detailed physical examination on Lil Bao. All of Lil Bao's indicators are normal. There's nothing wrong with him. How is it possible that the fever doesn't subside? There must be a problem somewhere. Ningxi was flustered as she held Xiao Bao in her arms. The little fellow's breathing was rapid and his face was flushed. These past few days, his spirit was getting worse and worse, and he was sleeping more and more. Director Zhao thought for a moment and said, Don't be too anxious. It's not uncommon for children to have this condition. If the fever doesn't subside by tomorrow, bring the child to the hospital for another checkup. Lu Tingxiao nodded. All right. Chapter 21:18. Lu Tingxiao and Ningxi stayed with Xiao Bao all night. The next morning, Ningxi suddenly opened her eyes and found that she had fallen asleep. She hurriedly got up and went to check on Xiao Bao. How is Xiao Bao? Don't worry. His fever has subsided. Lu Tingxiao hurriedly said. Ningxi heaved a sigh of relief. That's great. Lu Tingxiao's eyes dimmed. No one knew what he was thinking, but he looked relaxed and comforted her. You are too nervous. Ningxi nodded. I think so. She was under a lot of pressure. After Xiao Bao's fever subsided, he didn't have a recurrent fever like before. He was fine for 2 days in a row. However, no one expected that on the 3rd day, Xiao Bao's condition suddenly became serious. Although he didn't have a fever, he somehow fell into a coma and was extremely weak. Ningxi and Lu Tingxiao sent him to the capital military hospital overnight. The results of the second full-body examination came out, but no problem was found. Looking at Xiao Bao lying on the bed with a respirator, Ningxi took out her cell phone with trembling hands. I'll ask Annie to have a look. She had thought it was just a common cold and fever, but she didn't expect it would suddenly develop like this. At the door of the ward, Ningxi was about to make a phone call when she heard a voice behind her. Little bastard, are you sick? Yinshun. Ningxi looked at the man who suddenly appeared in the corridor in surprise. As always, the man had a head full of arrogant white hair and wore a black shirt, which made his originally fair skin seem even more white and translucent. Seeing Ningxi's surprised expression, the man raised his right middle finger, which was wrapped up exaggeratedly. I was pricked by a needle. Annie went out to pick herbs and was not there. Yi forced me to come to the hospital. He sounded very aggrieved. Not only Tang Yi and Feng Xiao, but also Tang Lang was there. Since the temporary truce between Yunxin and Lu Tingxiao, Tang Lang and Tang Yi often hung out and fought. Tang Yi wore a pair of glasses and had a cold face. Feng Xiao and Tang Lang stood there with their arms crossed, the corners of their mouths twitching speechlessly. Let's not talk about how you got pricked by a needle out of nowhere. What's there to feel aggrieved about? It's not like I don't know about your weird physique. Once you're injured, you bleed like you're on your period. Xiao Bao is sick. Feng Xiao glanced at the little fellow in the ward. What's going on? Xiao Bao's fever hasn't healed yet? Tang Lang asked. Ningxi looked a bit pale. She shook her head and said, Yes, he had a recurring high fever. His fever finally subsided 2 days ago, but now he suddenly fell ill again. The hospital has checked him twice, but found no reason. I'm going to ask Annie to come and see Xiao Bao. Yunshin glanced at the little bun in the ward. He narrowed his eyes and murmured, "This situation seems familiar. What?" Ning, she's expression tightened. "You've seen it? Where have I seen it before?" "I have to see the little bastard's condition first to be sure," Yunshin said. Ning, she frowned. She didn't believe him. She had never heard that he could treat patients. "Tisk, looks like sister-in-law doesn't trust me. Forget it then." At this moment, Lu Tingxiao said, "It's okay. Let him see." After Lu Tingxiao spoke, Ning, she immediately nodded in relief. "Oh, then hurry up and look." Yunshin was speechless. He suddenly didn't want to watch it anymore. Chapter 21:19. In the end, he entered the ward reluctantly. Ning Shi and the others stood aside nervously, waiting for Yunshin's result. Yunshin asked about Xiao Bao's condition casually. Then he lifted Xiao Bao's clothes and looked at him. Then he narrowed his eyes and said, "He's not sick, but poisoned." "What did you say?" Ning Shi and Tang Lang's expressions changed. Tang Yu was also surprised. Only Lu Tingxiao's eyes darkened as if he had expected this result. "What kind of poison is it? How do you know? How could Xiao Bao be poisoned?" Ning, she asked a series of questions. Yunshin put down Xiao Bao's clothes and said, "I don't know how or what kind of poison he was poisoned, but I'm sure that he was poisoned." Ning, she was furious at Yunshin's answer. She might as well not answer him. Yunshin seemed to be immersed in some kind of memory as he slowly said, "I've seen people who were poisoned by this kind of poison. At first, they also had a recurring fever. What's interesting is that they had a fever on the first day and recovered on the second day. On the third day, they had a fever and recovered on the second day. Every time they had a fever, their bodies became weaker and weaker, and their spirits became worse and worse. Moreover, they couldn't find out the reason. It was like a game of torture. It gave people hope and instantly made them despair." Hearing Yunshin's words, Ning, she quickly took a closer look at Xiao Bao's body. Sure enough, there were many red spots on Xiao Bao's body. They had been there before, but they were very few. She thought they were caused by allergies and fever, but now it seemed that these red spots had been increasing with Xiao Bao's fever. Who would poison a child like this? Tang Yi frowned. Tang Lang narrowed his eyes. This is obviously a torture method. Someone must have come to seek revenge, right? However, Xiao Bao was usually so well protected. Previously, because of great god Han Zhao's presence, those people were all scared away. When exactly was this poison administered? None of us noticed it at all. Tang Lang suddenly had a bold idea. Could this poison have something to do with the person who sent Xiao Bao back to the Lu family? Feng Xiaoxiao subconsciously glanced at Yunshin. She deliberated over her words and said, "Actually, I've heard of this poison before. I heard that it can be planted in a person's body for a long period of time. It's possible for it to be triggered after 3 to 5 years. Therefore, it's highly possible that when Xiao Bao was first sent to the Lu family, he had already been planted with this poison and it only flared up recently. If that's the case, then it makes sense." Ning, she had never thought that things would turn out like this. Because this matter involved Lil Bao, her mind was in chaos. Listening to Feng Xiaoxiao and the others' analysis, her mind was in chaos, and she couldn't think straight. "Little bastard, how many days have you been like this?" Yunshin suddenly asked at this time. Lu Tingxiao replied, 6 days. Yunshin's eyes flashed. 6 days? I know of people who have been poisoned by this poison. They all die on the 7th day after the poison takes effect. Yunshin's words immediately caused Ning, Shi's heart to fall into an endless abyss. Ning, she said anxiously, "How is that possible? Doesn't that mean Xiao Bao only has less than a day left? Could you have made a mistake somewhere? It's already the 6th night since Xiao Bao's fever started. Didn't this mean that Xiao Bao wouldn't live past tomorrow morning?" This result exploded in Ning, Shi's mind like a bolt from the blue. Chapter 21:20. Yunshin frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "I don't know much about this poison. I'm just telling you my opinion based on the situation." For a moment, everyone was silent. Ning, she didn't have time to think. Her fingers trembled as she dialed Annie's number. "Hello, Annie. Brother Shi," You finally called me. I was afraid you were busy, so I didn't dare to disturb you. Annie's happy voice came from the other end of the phone. Ning, she interrupted Annie apologetically. Annie, I'm sorry. Where are you now? Can you come to the Capital Military Hospital? I have something urgent to talk to you about. Hospital? What's wrong, brother? Annie asked nervously. No. Anyway, come over here first. Annie was relieved to hear that Ning, she wasn't in trouble. She said, Okay, I'll be right there, but I'm in Cydia now. I might not be able to come here so soon. Lu Tingxiao said, I'll arrange a helicopter to pick you up. Ning, she immediately said, Send me your exact location. I'll send someone to pick you up. Okay. After the call, Ning, she's body trembled and she almost collapsed. Lu Tingxiao held the girl in his arms and looked at the time on his watch. His eyes darkened. It would take more than an hour to fly from City A to the capital by helicopter. As time went by, everyone's mood became heavier and heavier. Feng Xiaoxiao hugged Ning, and comforted her. Xiaobao will be fine. Satan must be playing with you again to scare you. Ning, she closed her eyes and didn't speak. Although Yunshen was very unreliable most of the time, he wouldn't say this if he wasn't 100% sure about it. Therefore, she was sure that he was telling the truth. Lu Tingxiao had been operating a complicated software on his phone attentively, as if he was commanding something. After an unknown amount of time, a cell phone suddenly rang in the silent corridor. It was Lu Tingxiao's cell phone. Lu Tingxiao immediately answered the call. Hello? Okay, send it to me now. Ning, she's expression changed. What? Has the surveillance been restored? Lu Tingxiao nodded. Yes. What surveillance? Feng Xiaoxiao asked in confusion. Tang Lang gave a simple explanation. Once the surveillance is restored, we will be able to find out who took Xiaobao away from the hospital and sent him to the Lu family. At this time, Lu Tingxiao's phone was receiving documents. The progress bar moved forward bit by bit, and after a while, with a beep, the file was finally successfully transferred. Everyone held their breath and looked at Lu Tingxiao's phone screen. Ning, she's fingers tightened even more. Who was it? Who could it be? Lu Tingxiao's slender fingers quickly clicked on the surveillance video. The scene on the monitor was cold and deathly still. It was obviously a hospital morgue. The door opened, and a staff member walked in with a wrapped baby in his arms. He placed the baby in the freezer, then turned around and left. The moment she saw the object in the hands of the staff, although she could only vaguely see that it was a baby covered in blue and purple, Ningxi's heart subconsciously skipped a beat. Is that Xiaobao? Just as she was thinking, the door of the morgue was pushed open again, and a thin figure in black and a cap walked in. Because the man's back was to the camera, his face could not be seen clearly. It must be him, Tang Lang said excitedly. The man opened the freezer and took out the dead baby that the staff had just put in. Then he quickly closed the freezer and turned to leave. The next second, the man turned around. Ningxi, Tang Lang, Tang Yi, Feng Xiaoxiao, and even Yun Shun, who were staring at the video, all turned pale. Annie! How could it be? How could it be Annie? Chapter 21:21. Annie, Tang Lang, and Feng Xiaoxiao cried out at the same time. Tang Ye's eyes behind the glasses were filled with shock. Yin Shun's face was also filled with astonishment. Ning, she stared at the frozen face on the screen. She opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word for a long time. Annie, how could it be Annie? However, the girl on the phone screen had a delicate and beautiful face that didn't show her age. Her appearance was almost the same as the current Annie, so they all recognized her at a glance. Annie's appearance was very young. In addition, it was probably because of her good medical skills and proficient in maintaining youth and health. Ever since Ning she met her, her appearance didn't seem to have changed much. The little girl in her memory had always looked like this. Ning, she didn't expect to see such a face in the surveillance video that they had painstakingly recovered. Before this, she had thought of countless possibilities in her mind. There were countless guesses, but no matter what, she didn't expect it to be Annie. How was this possible? It can't be my little cutie Annie. Feng Xiaoxiao was a little agitated as she snatched the phone from Lu Tingxiao's hand and replayed the video. However, no matter how many times they watched it, that face was still incomparably familiar. It was the little sister that they all doted on, Annie. Fuck. Boss, is this fucking surveillance reliable or not? Tang Lang grabbed his head of mixed hair in annoyance. Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything, but his expression had already answered this question. He had personally watched this surveillance from the beginning to the end. It took the experts nearly half a month to restore it, so there was absolutely no mistake. Just when Ning Shi and the others were shocked by this result, their minds were in a mess. With a ding sound, the elevator door at the end of the corridor opened and a series of footsteps came from afar. Brother Shi, a cute little girl wearing a garden print cotton dress, called Ning Shi crisply when she saw her from afar. Then, she ran in the direction of Ning Shi and the others with light footsteps. The moment she saw Annie, Ning Shi's back suddenly stiffened. Tang Lang, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiaoxiao's expressions abruptly changed. Tang Lang subconsciously took a step forward and stood in front of Ning Shi, adopting a defensive stance. Annie probably noticed that Ning Shi's attitude was not right. She suspiciously stopped 3 steps away from Ning Shi, and her clear eyes were a little hesitant. Brother Shi, Brother Yi, Sister Xiao Xiao? What happened? By the way, Brother Shi, who's sick? Tang Lang and Feng Xiaoxiao exchanged glances without saying a word. Tang Yi pursed his lips, not knowing what to say. For a moment, no one spoke, and the corridor fell into a strange silence. In the end, Lu Tingxiao took the phone back from the dumbfounded Feng Xiaoxiao and walked over to Annie, handing the phone to her. Mr. Lu? Annie took the phone suspiciously, then looked down at it subconsciously. His phone was playing the surveillance footage of the morgue in the hospital. When Annie looked down, she happened to see the face of the man in black after he turned around. Almost at this moment, the aura of this lively and adorable little girl in front of him changed in a split second. It was clearly still that immature and innocent face, but the innocence between his brows had instantly faded, turning into a bone-chilling coldness. That pair of clean and clear eyes were covered with a layer of cold and gloomy light. A treacherous aura with killing intent gushed out from within, covering the sky and covering the earth. This narrow and spacious corridor was instantly filled with a vicious aura. Chapter 21-22. Looking at Annie's change, Tang Lang, Feng Xiaoxiao, and Tang Yi all subconsciously activated their nerves and defense systems. It was an instinctive reaction when they encountered a top master and their lives were threatened. And this terrifying sense of danger, they actually felt it from the weak and harmless Annie, who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. At this moment, the phone screen in Annie's hand had been crushed and it was pitch black. The girl's indifferent eyes fell on Lu Tingxiao, and she said, "The current leader of the Lu family is indeed not to be underestimated. He was actually able to do something that was basically impossible." She was confident that no one could see through the flaws in this surveillance video, let alone fix it. But now it was actually exposed, and at this time, Ning Shi, Tang Lang, and the others were even more shocked when they saw Annie's completely different expression and her words. Did she admit it? The person in the surveillance video was really her. Behind Tang Lang and the others, Yin Shun slowly walked out of the shadows. I really didn't expect my little Yu-er to be so mysterious. She had actually deceived all of them. Ning, she didn't know how she came back to her senses. She used all her strength to take a deep breath and asked the question she was most concerned about at the moment. "Annie, did you poison Xiaobao?" "Yes," the girl admitted without hesitation. The moment he finished speaking, the few of them were stunned. Seeing that there was not much time left, Ning, she didn't want to ask about the cause and effect for the time being. She asked directly, "What will make you give me the antidote?" Annie's face was cold. "Ning Shi, this has nothing to do with you." Ning, she clenched her fists and said excitedly, "How can it have nothing to do with me? I am Xiaobao's biological mother. You should know this the best, right?" Annie's face was still expressionless. "Then, you should also know that this child should have died a long time ago. I let him live to this day. Now, I'm just taking back what I gave him." Ning Shi's body trembled, and she couldn't speak. Indeed, Xiaobao had been declared dead by the doctor and placed in the morgue. At that time, Annie should have taken Xiaobao away and saved him. Since you saved Xiaobao, why did you poison him? Ning, she asked. I told you. This has nothing to do with you, Annie repeated. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao pulled Ning Shi behind him and stepped forward, saying, since it's between you and the Lu family, I'm the head of the Lu family. You could take revenge on me. Why do you have to make things difficult for an innocent girl? Judging from Annie's attitude, this grudge was probably between her and the Lus. Hearing this, Annie didn't know why, but her cold face was suddenly tainted with a slightly crazy smile. Ha! Innocent! Your son is innocent. Isn't my brother Qing Zhe innocent too? If I let him go, who will let my brother Qing Zhe go? At the last sentence, the murderous aura around Annie suddenly increased. Brother Qing Zhe, Ning Shi, Tang Lang, and the others fell into deep thought when they heard Annie's words. Even Lu Tingxiao hadn't heard of this name before. Who was this Qing Zhe that Annie mentioned? Only Yun Shun's eyes changed imperceptibly when he heard the name Annie said. He seemed to recall a distant memory and murmured the name. Qing Zhe? Yun Qing Zhe? Chapter 21-23. With that, his sharp gaze landed on Annie. Could it be that you are? Annie smiled coldly. That's right, I am. At this moment, Tang Lang, who was listening at the side, was about to go crazy. What kind of riddle were these two playing? Who was Annie? Who was Yun Qingze? He had the same surname as Satan. Were they related in some way? Tang Yi muttered, Yun Qingze seems to be the grandson of the Yun family's patriarch, Yun Jie, Satan's cousin. At the same time, Yun Shen looked at Annie and said confidently, You're Yun Qingze's sworn sister, Luo Ling. Annie didn't deny it. She chuckled and looked at Lu Tingxiao coldly. Everyone from back then is dead. Now, only the Lu family is left. You're all going to die with my big brother Qingze. Ha, innocent? I want everyone in the Lu clan to have a taste of what it feels like to watch your loved ones die in front of you and be powerless to do anything about it. Lu Tingxiao quickly pieced together what happened back then from the fragmented memories of the feud between the Lu and Yun families. If I remember correctly, the Yun family wanted to use Yun Qingze's death as an opportunity to ally with the other two families to deal with the Lu family. But after the investigation, we found out that Yun Qingze's death had nothing to do with the Lu family. The word nothing ignited Annie's anger. Nothing to do with it. If it wasn't for the Lu family, if it wasn't for you, Lu Tingxiao, big brother Qingze wouldn't have died. Back then, the patriarch sent me to assassinate you. I rejected the mission, so he killed Qingze. He told me that Qingze died in your hands. He thought that I would go after you for revenge. If it wasn't for you, big brother Qingze wouldn't have died. Annie repeated these words. Ning Shi's mind raced as she processed everything. She frowned and said, That's why the Yun family and the Lu family are enemies. In order to deal with the Lu family, the Yun family sent someone to assassinate the patriarch of the Lu family, Lu Tingxiao. But you rejected the mission because you knew that it would involve selling your body. In order to force you to submit and also to have an opportunity to start a war, the Yun family patriarch did not hesitate to kill his own grandson, Yun Qingze, and then pushed all the blame onto the Lu family. But then you found out the truth. At this point, Ning Shi's mind had already sorted out the ins and outs of the situation. Since you already know that Yun Qingze wasn't killed by the Lu family, why are you still venting your anger on the Lu family and even on Xiaobao? Yun Shen's eyes flickered when he heard Ning Shi's words. The atmosphere suddenly turned gloomy. Is this reason hard to understand? Because they all deserve to die. Everyone involved in her death deserves to die. Ning Shi was surprised to see Yun Shen speak for Annie. Who was the she that Yun Shen mentioned? He was probably not referring to Yun Qingze, right? Yun Shen looked at Annie and smiled. I see. No wonder little fishy would stay by my side and secretly help me. So, we're both in the same boat. Ning Shi frowned slightly. She had just sorted this out, but her mind was in a mess again. Why was Yun Shen involved again? Why did he drag Yun Shen into this? The corner of Yun Shen's mouth curled into a mocking smile. That old fellow Yun Jie loves disgusting dramas, like assassination the most. What's the big deal about sacrificing an insignificant grandson? Even if it's his only daughter, he can still send her to his opponent's bed. Chapter 21-24. Hearing this, Ningxi was shocked. She immediately thought of the grudge between Yunshin's mother, Yunlan, and Lu Chongshan. Could it be that Yunshin's mother had such a relationship with Lu Chongshan? Yunshin's mother had the same fate as Annie. She had been sent by Yun Jie to assassinate the Lu family, but the target was Lu Chongshan. You're much smarter than that silly woman. Yunshin glanced at Lu Tingxiao with a faint smile. That silly woman lost her body, her heart, and her life, but you killed everyone. Previously, I couldn't figure out who was the one who destroyed the Yun family. Who was the one who did it before me? So it was you. You poisoned the Yuns, didn't you? Ningxi finally understood. No wonder Yunshin said he knew this poison. Also, the foolish woman that Yunshin mentioned was probably his mother, Yunlan. Yunlan's mother must have loved Lu Chongshan wholeheartedly. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given birth to Yunshin. But Lu Chongshan, as the head of the Lu family, was willing to sacrifice anything for the family's interests. If he found out Yunlan's identity, she could almost imagine the tragedy that would follow. Annie didn't deny it at all. She just looked at Yunshin coldly. You betrayed your faith. Upon hearing this, Yunshin instantly laughed out loud. Ha! Faith? What's my faith? Just like you, I killed everyone who was related to this matter. Indeed, he had once been like Annie. Even though he knew that his mother had died in the hands of his grandfather and was killed by his family as a disgrace. However, when he finally gathered his strength and wanted to take revenge, he found that the Yun family had been destroyed overnight. From then on, killing Lu Chongshan and destroying the Lu family had become the only meaningful thing for him to live on, until Yunshin's eyes fell on the girl next to Lu Tingxiao, but it was only for a moment. The man quickly retracted his gaze and looked at Annie again, saying, Previously, you were helping me by my side because we had a common enemy. But now that I'm working with my enemy, Lu Tingxiao, are you turning to Qiaoyi? Tang Lang looked surprised. Was Annie the one who saved Xiao? Meanwhile, Tang Yi, Feng Xiao, and the others were also dumbfounded. He had never imagined that what had happened to Xiaobao back then would involve so many people, and even the grievances between two generations. Yunshin's mother, Lu Chongshan, Qiao Yi, Annie, Lu Tingxiao, Yunxing's. Suddenly, an alarm sounded in the ward. The young nurse rushed out in panic. Oh no, the patient suddenly went into shock. I'll call the doctor. Xiaobao. Ningxi's face suddenly changed, and she immediately rushed into the ward with Lu Tingxiao. Whatever. Let's get the antidote first. Tang Lang's face was filled with killing intent as he stared at Annie's direction. I don't care why you are doing this. If you have any grudges, just fight it out in the open. Using such a despicable method to make things difficult for a child. What kind of man are you? After Tang Lang finished speaking, he realized that Annie didn't seem to be a man either. However, he couldn't care less. He continued, Hand over the antidote now, or don't blame me for being rude. Annie chuckled. I wonder, how are you going to treat me? Chapter 21-25. Feng Xiao advised, Annie, stop being stubborn and hand over the antidote. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave today. Annie's indifferent gaze swept towards Tang Lang, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiao. She suddenly sneered. Just the three of you small fries? Why don't you come at me together? Together? Small fries. Fuck, little brat. You're really daring. Tang Lang was so angry that he almost laughed. She was looking down on him too much. Even if Annie was an expert, and he could feel the familiar aura from her, it was still too arrogant for her to say such words. Seeing that Xiaobao was being treated and the situation was getting more and more dangerous, Tang Lang couldn't be bothered anymore and immediately attacked Annie. In the next second, there was a loud bang. Tang Lang was slapped against the wall behind him. Tang Lang clutched his chest in pain. Fuck, one move to kill him? Feng Xiao and Tang Ye's expressions changed, and it took them a few seconds to react before they attacked as well. In the end, the battle ended in less than 10 seconds. Feng Xiaoxiao spat out a mouthful of blood, and even Tang Yi clutched his chest as he took 3 steps back. Tang Lang's eyeballs almost popped out. Fuck. What the fuck? How is that possible? This didn't make sense. The 3 of them had guessed that Annie was skilled, but they didn't expect her to be this strong. She defeated Tang Yi, Tang Lang, and Feng Xiaoxiao in less than 10 seconds. What kind of concept was that? When Ningxi came out, the first thing she saw was Tang Yi, Tang Lang, and Feng Xiaoxiao losing to Annie even though they had joined hands. Her expression instantly changed. No one here could do anything to Annie. What about Xiaobao's antidote? Ningxi felt a burning pain in her chest because of her anxiety. She quickly said, Annie, you said this has nothing to do with me. Fine, I don't care about your grudge with the Liu family, but Xiaobao is my son. I can't just watch him die. This is a matter between the 2 of us. What do I have to do for you to hand over the antidote? Annie replied, You want the antidote? Sure. Just as Ningxi's eyes lit up, she heard Annie say, Defeat me. Tang Lang held onto his chest, which was burning with pain, and cursed in a low voice, Fuck, what's the difference between you saying it and not saying it? Ningxi clenched her hands into fists. Good. Defeat you? I'll fight you. Tang Lang exclaimed, Little junior sister, you're crazy. Lu Tingxiao's face changed slightly. Xiaoxi. Yinshin also frowned. There was no warmth in Annie's eyes. You're no match for me. Ningxi slowly took off her coat and threw it on the ground. How would you know if you don't try? Annie remained silent and stared at her for 3 seconds. Then she finally said, All right then, take 3 strikes from me. If you can still stand up after these 3 strikes, I'll give you the antidote. Ningxi, okay. Tang Lang immediately exclaimed, Fuck. Tang Shi, you're courting death. She almost killed me with 1 slap, and your small body will be smashed into pieces by 1 slap. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. Xiaoxi, don't mess around. Lu Tingxiao, I'm sorry, but I can't listen to you this time. Ningxi looked at the man in front of her very seriously. You know, this is the only way. Xiaobao was in danger, and Annie could leave at any time, and none of them could stop her. Chapter 21-26. After saying that, Ningxi took a deep look at Xiaobao through the glass window and walked straight to Annie. Let's start. You're courting death. Ningxi had just stood still when Yinshin pulled her back. Ningxi fought back and broke free from Yinshin's shackles. Get out of my way. Fuck. Yinshin was so angry that he almost died. He looked at Lu Tingxiao with fire in his eyes. Do you still care? Lu Tingxiao pursed his thin lips and his face darkened. Xiaoxi. The man was about to speak but was interrupted by Ningxi. Lu Tingxiao, don't make me hate you. Lu Tingxiao's face turned pale and he couldn't say a word. Then Ningxi glanced at everyone present. No one is allowed to make a move. She was running out of time. Then she looked at Annie and said, Annie, let's start. Okay. Annie walked up to the girl step by step and threw a punch at Ning. She is fast as lightning. Puff! Ningxi was sent flying several meters away like a kite with a broken string. She hit the cold wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. Junior sister, Xiaoxi. Everyone cried out in alarm. Ningxi stretched out her hand and stopped everyone from coming forward. I'm fine. Tang Lang was going crazy. Fuck, how could she be fine? He had been hit by Annie's punch and knew how strong she was. Go on. Ningxi hobbled up to Annie. Bang! She hit her again. This time, Ningxi was knocked to the ground. She was motionless and blood dripped from her mouth onto the cold ground. She used all the strength in her body to force herself to a kneeling position and then stood up shakily. However, it seemed that her body would collapse in the next second. She couldn't take the 3rd punch. She would really die. Idiot. Are you fucking crazy? Yinshin couldn't bear it anymore and rushed straight to Ningxi. Ningxi said harshly, Lu Tingxiao, stop him. Almost as soon as Ningxi spoke, Lu Tingxiao stopped Yinshin, who was about to rush over. Yinshin looked at the man in front of him incredulously. Fuck, she's crazy. Are you crazy too? Lu Tingxiao stood in front of Yunshun like a stone statue that had been weathered for 10,000 years. He was motionless and looked indestructible, but in fact he seemed to be about to shatter into powder in the next second. While Lu Tingxiao was blocking Yunshun, Ningxi dragged her heavy steps back to Annie. The last palm. Annie didn't say anything. She just stared at Ningxi. After some time, Annie finally said, "Okay." Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Tang Lang, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiaoxiao were already prepared to stop them at all costs. Finally, Annie made her move. Her palm, which seemed to carry the force of a thunderbolt, rapidly flew towards Ningxi. On the other hand, Tang Lang and the others noticed that the speed of that palm was simply too swift, and they were actually already unable to block it in time. Thus, he could only watch as Ningxi took the blow. The entire corridor of the hospital was dead silent. However, in the next second, what they had expected did not happen. Ningxi actually didn't fall after such a blow. Annie's palm was pressed against Ningxi's chest. If one looked closely, they would find that it seemed that she had hit Ningxi, but in fact, there was an extremely small distance between them, and it didn't hit her. Chapter 21-27. Under everyone's gaze, Annie slowly retracted her palm. She didn't hit Ningxi. "Ningxi, you saved me. I've repaid your kindness. If there's a next time," Annie's eyes shone with cold light, and her killing intent was terrifying. At the same time, a small medicine pouch fell from her palm. Ningxi subconsciously stretched out her hand, and the small medicine pouch fell into her palm. Ningxi stared at the small medicine pouch blankly. "This is," Annie sneered. "Don't get me wrong. This is not the antidote. It's just a temporary medicine." Then she turned around and left. Ningxi was stunned for a moment, and then shouted behind her, "If someone can defeat you, will you really hand over the antidote? Since I said it, I will keep my word." With that, Annie's figure disappeared at the end of the hallway. Almost at the moment when Annie left, Ningxi was like a collapsed high-rise building, falling backwards with a loud bang. She fell into the arms of a man who made her want to cry. Ningxi raised her head and smiled at the man whose face was extremely gloomy. "Sweetheart, thank you." Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl in his arms, and his body trembled uncontrollably. He wanted nothing more than to strangle her to death, but he held her carefully, as if he was hugging a pile of bubbles that would burst at the slightest touch. "Just this once." "Okay." The girl nodded obediently. She didn't have the same imposing manner as before. She knew that she couldn't take Annie's 3 strikes, but she was betting that Annie wouldn't kill her. Fortunately, she won the bet. Fortunately, Lu Tingxiao believed her. Yunshun almost cursed. "A pair of lunatics. By the way, give it a xiao bao." Ningxi hurried to the ward. Tang Lang hurriedly took the small medicine pouch from Ningxi's hand. "Grandpa Shi, I'll call you Grandpa. Don't bother. Let me do it. I really have to give it to you." Hearing Tang Lang calling her Grandpa, Ningxi's eyes flickered and she slowly took out a silver whistle from her pocket. Maybe this is Xiao Bao's only chance. Yunshun glanced at the whistle with his peripheral vision. "This is that goo whistle?" "What is a goo whistle?" Ningxi did not understand. "There's a type of goo insect inside this whistle. One of the whistles has a child insect inside it. The whistle has been specially designed to wake up the child insect after blowing it into the air. It will then send a message to the mother insect, letting the mother insect know the location of the child insect." Yunshun explained and then looked disdainful. "This kind of old thing has not been used for 800 years. If you have the time to design this damn thing, you might as well buy a locator." Ningxi didn't know what to say. However, this thing was not only a whistle to her, but also an important keepsake. It represented a favor and a life for Han Xiao. Finally, this time, Ningxi personally blew that whistle. Then, she finally lost all her strength and fell into a coma. When Ningxi woke up, it was already the next morning. His entire body was aching. "Ouch, it hurts." Tang Lang was sitting on the opposite sofa and eating an apple. When he heard the movements on the sickbed, he curled his lips in annoyance and said, "What are you howling for?" Feng Xiaoxiao had 2 broken bones. Eldest senior brother had 3 broken bones, and I had 6 broken bones. You haven't even broken a single bone. He didn't even sustain any internal injuries. Just a little blood in his lungs. I haven't howled yet. What are you howling for? Hearing this, Ning, she touched her chest, and her eyes warmed. Chapter 21-28. The more Tang Lang spoke, the angrier he got. Fuck. Why? Why did eldest senior brother break 3? Feng Xiao break 2? You didn't break a single one, but I broke so many. How did she rank the number of broken bones? I've always treated her very well, okay? This little girl is too biased. Tang Lang had an expression of extreme heartache and grievance. Ning, she looked at Tang Lang speechlessly. Did this guy have to be so biased? How is Xiaobao? Ning, she asked. Don't worry, he's stable for now. All right, Grandpa is here too. He's with Xiaobao now. Tang Lang said. Great God is here. I want to go over. Ning, she hurriedly got up. In Xiaobao's ward. When Ning, she and Tang Lang went over, Han Xiao was examining Xiaobao. Seeing Han Xiao's focused expression, Ning, she didn't disturb him. Han Xiao felt Xiaobao's pulse and examined all parts of his body. Then, a disdainful expression appeared on his face. It's actually the method of Emperor Qin's bloodline. You guys must have offended the descendants of Emperor Qin's bloodline. But they're really getting more and more despicable. They're cruel to a child. Great God, do you know what poison Xiaobao was poisoned with? Ning, she hurriedly asked. Although Yunshin had heard of this poison before, he didn't know its origin. This poison came from one of the ancient martial families, the Qin family's secret poison. Han Xiao replied, Great God, do you have a way to cure it? Han Xiao shook his head. There's no way. I've said it before. I only know how to deal with external injuries. Moreover, the poison in this little guy's body was planted when he was born. It has already penetrated deep into his bone marrow. Moreover, the poison in his body is not exactly the same as the poison I know. It has been mutated. Even if I find you the antidote for that poison, it will be useless. Only the person who poisoned him can cure it. How could this be? Ning, she immediately fell into despair. Han Xiao revealed a suspicious expression. Strange, I took a look just now. Under normal circumstances, the poison in this little guy's body should have acted up 2 years ago. Why is it delayed until now? I don't know either. Ning, she was confused. Lu Tingxiao stretched out his hand and handed Han Xiao a small sachet. Is it because of this? When Ning, she saw that sachet, she revealed a surprised expression. Is that the sachet that Annie gave to Xiaobao 2 years ago? Lu Tingxiao nodded. Yes. Han Xiao placed the sachet in front of his nose and sniffed it. Then he narrowed his eyes and said, It is indeed because of this. This sachet is the same thing as the one used to alleviate Xiaobao's poison. However, it has already lost its efficacy due to the passage of time. The reason why Xiaobao's poison had been delayed for 2 years was now known. But Ning, she had a new question. Why did Annie deliberately leave this sachet to alleviate Xiaobao's poison? Maybe it's because it's not time to make a move yet. Tang Lang speculated. Ning, she fell silent and began to recall the scene when Annie first came to the capital to see her. At first, when Annie found out about her relationship with Lu Tingxiao, she showed great rejection towards Lu Tingxiao. She even warned her that it was not easy to be a stepmother and advised her not to be with Lu Tingxiao. Later on, when he saw that she really liked Lu Tingxiao and Xiaobao, and that Xiaobao was so cute, he changed his attitude and even gave Xiaobao this sachet. Chapter 21-29. Even though Annie's identity shocked her, they had been together for so long, Ning, she didn't believe that Annie didn't have any feelings for them. This was also the reason why she dared to take the risk. When Annie suddenly helped Xiaobao to relieve the poison, was it because she found out that she was with Lu Tingxiao that she wavered? She had no way of knowing. The most important thing now was to get the antidote. Ning, she took a deep breath and looked at Han Xiao. God, this time I may have to ask you for a favor. Tang Lang took the opportunity to come over. Grandpa, let me tell you, that woman is amazing. Damn, I was KO'd by her and 6 ribs were broken. That woman said before she left that she would give the antidote to whoever could defeat her. Grandpa, this time it's all up to you. Ning, she also shot Han Xiao a look. Almighty, can I? Han Xiao heard this and felt a little bored. You use that whistle. I will naturally agree to any request you make, but it's boring to let me deal with some trash every time. Trash? Damn it, 6 of his ribs were broken, okay? Annie was trash. Then what was he? Useless trash. Trash number 1, Tang Yi. Trash number 2, Tang Lang. Trash number 3, Feng Xiao Xiao. Tang Lang immediately retorted, she's not trash, she's really powerful. Big senior brother, 3rd junior sister, and I couldn't beat her. I think her martial arts level may even be on the same level as you. Han Zhao's eyes twitched. A bloodthirsty luster appeared in his eyes. In this world, I'm afraid the same level as me hasn't been born yet. There are only 3 of you. How are you different from ants? I can crush you with 1 finger. After saying that, Han Xiao yawned, and his eyes fell on the KFC Deluxe family bucket that Ning she had prepared. Tang Lang, Tang Yi, Feng Xiao Xiao, damn it, I really want to beat him up. I just can't beat her. Just as they were discussing when to fight Annie, a series of hurried footsteps came from the door of the ward. Lu Jingli and a deputy of Yinshin Company rushed over at the same time, panting. Lu Jingli said anxiously, Brother, bad news. Take a look at the group's shares. Yinshin's deputy hurriedly said, Boss, our side has also plummeted. For a moment, a stagnant atmosphere spread in the ward. Lu Jingli then said, Byron Rosher just contacted me and them at the same time, asking us to meet. They came with ill intentions. Tang Lang directly said, So be it. We have so many people here, and the Almighty is also here. What's there to be afraid of? Let's see what those bastards are up to. After Lu Jingli finished speaking, he coughed lightly and said, Also, the person who sent the message was Annie. Ning Shi and the others were silent for a few seconds. Although they had already guessed that Annie had teamed up with Xiao, Yi, and Lucky Queen, it was still a little hard to believe when they heard it with their own ears. Chapter 21:30. The power of Europe's emperor had finally surfaced. The Rochester family was one of the oldest families in Europe. Its origins could be traced back to the Middle Ages in Western Europe. Since the 17th century, every family leader of the Rochester family had the title of Emperor of Europe. The family was in charge of most of the underground dynasties in Europe, and they were also the masterminds of some war-torn countries. The Rochester family was very mysterious. Even today, in the era of the media, there was no news about the Rochester family. Not to mention ordinary people, even some forces with powerful backgrounds might not have heard of the Rocher family. However, the Rochester family was like a towering mountain that couldn't be crossed. Even Lu Tingxiao did not have any dealings with the Rochelle clan. Annie. Feng Xiao Xiao sighed. She didn't know what to say. Lu Jingli's expression was solemn. It's obvious that Rochester is up to no good this time. There was no emotion in Lu Tingxiao's eyes. Address. Sky Spring Villa? Lu Jingli replied. Lu Jingli had investigated the matter when he received the news. The entire Sky Spring Villa had been booked by someone. There were no traces left, and he couldn't find out who it was. However, it was obvious that the Rochester family had booked the entire Sky Spring Villa. They only invited people from both sides, Lu Jingli continued. After all, as long as the Lu Group and Elon Ventures fell, the Rochester family would be invincible in Asia. They wouldn't care about the small fries. What are you afraid of? We'll kill them all if we can't do it. Tang Lang snorted. Tang Lang's real plan was to drag Han Xiao along with him. Even if it was a Hongmin banquet, there was nothing to be afraid of. Before Lu Jingli could speak, his cell phone rang as if it was urging him to die. Lu Group's big boy company, as well as many people in charge of the listed companies that cooperated with Lu Group, had been ringing off the hook. Everyone was unsure of the economic impact this time, and was anxious to see Lu Tingxiao. The situation in Yinshan was similar. While Lu Tingxiao and Yinshan were discussing the details, Ningxi and Tang Lang looked at each other and then dragged Han Xiao to a corner, one on each side. What for? Han Xiao hugged the KFC luxurious family bucket, his mouth glistening with grease. He was somewhat dissatisfied that Ning Shi and Tang Lang had disturbed his meal. Tang Lang rubbed his hands together. Grandpa, let's go to Sky Spring Villa to eat tonight. What's so good about these things? Why are you afraid of the Rochester clan? Han Xiao glanced at the two of them. Their little thoughts couldn't be hidden from him. With Grandpa here, wouldn't I feel more confident? Tang Lang had a flattering smile on his face. Han Xiao sneered coldly, and a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. Of course I'll go. It's rare that the Rothschild family is willing to step out of their nest. It was time to settle the old and new grudges between Han Xiao and the Rothschild family. Back then, Qin Yu's death was closely related to the Rothschild clan. This was an old grudge. All these years, the Rothschild family had been afraid of Han Zhao's revenge, so they had sent out countless assassins to assassinate him. This could be considered a new enemy. Grandfather, do you have a grudge against the Rothschild clan? Tang Lang noticed something unusual from Han Zhao's expression. Chapter 21:31. Did you forget that the Rothschild family once sent assassins to assassinate the master? Ning Shi reminded him. Tang Lang suddenly realized that when they were in Deer Town, the master was heavily injured because he was ambushed by the people they sent. Even Ning Shi was not sure about Han Zhao's past, much less Tang Lang. The only thing they were sure of was that Han Xiao had a grudge against the Rothschild family. However, as for what kind of grudge would make the Rothschild family keep sending assassins to kill Han Xiao, this was a little thought-provoking. However, from what Ning Shi and Tang Lang thought, Han Xiao must have offended the Rothschild family before. After all, someone like Han Xiao, who liked to stir up trouble and would find others to spar with when he was bored, was actually a violent personality. It was not strange that he had offended the Rothschild family before. However, this was undoubtedly a good thing for them. After all, Ning Shi's whistle had been used to ask Han Xiao to help defeat Annie and get the antidote. As for the Rothschild family, Ning Shi could not ask Han Xiao anymore. With grandfather here, who cares if it's a banquet? Just eat and drink as usual. Tang Lang was completely relieved. Well, I'm going to kill someone. Han Xiao smiled. When he saw Han Xiao smile, Tang Lang could not help but shudder. It was the first time he and Ning Shi had seen Han Xiao smile like this. It was extremely strange, like the calm before the storm. When Lu Tingxiao was done with everything, the sky was already dark. It was close to the appointed time with the Rothschild family. Lu Tingxiao looked at Ning Shi and said, "You stay." It was rare for Yun Shun to agree with Lu Tingxiao. The woman stays at home. Don't cause trouble. Even in China, the Rothschild family was very scary. This was obviously a banquet, so Lu Tingxiao obviously did not want her to take the risk. "No, I'll go too," Ning Shi said with a determined gaze. How could she let Lu Tingxiao face danger alone? In fact, tonight, Annie would definitely come too. Little Treasure's antidote had not been obtained yet, so how could she not worry? It's too dangerous, Lu Tingxiao frowned. Ning Shi put her hands together. I promise this time, I'll be obedient. I'll listen to whatever you say. Okay. No. Lu Tingxiao's tone was firm. Ning Shi's bright and beautiful eyes suddenly became misty. In the next second, her tears fell and she threw herself into Lu Tingxiao's embrace. Her little face stuck to his chest and her tone was extremely pitiful. But I'll be worried about you. If I stay here alone, every minute and every second is torture for me. Darling, let me go with you, okay? Lu Tingxiao replied. Okay. Yun Shun immediately bristled. Hey, fuck, can't you have some principles? This damn lass was clearly acting. Was this guy blind to not see through it? Ning Shi was actually a little confused. Her sweetheart was really too cute. She had not even used 10% of her skills, and he had already agreed. Lu Tingxiao reminded him sternly, remember what you said. No matter what happens, don't act rashly. He knew that once Ning Shi had made a decision, no one could change it. Moreover, he had already secretly made arrangements for this appointment and made thorough preparations. Ning Shi nodded extremely obediently. Don't worry, Grandfather and the Rothschild family have a grudge. This time, we'll go with you. Let's just wait and watch the show." Tang Lang looked smug. When they heard that, Feng Xiaoxiao and Tang Yi secretly sighed in relief. With Han Xiao around, they felt more confident. Chapter 21:32. Half an hour later, Lu Tingxiao and the others arrived at the Sky Spring Villa. The Sky Spring Villa looked the same as usual, but in fact, it was already under the control of the Rothschild family. Under the calm surface, there was a turbulent undercurrent. "Mr. Lu, Mr. Yin, please." Outside the villa, an old man with an Asian face immediately recognized them and led them into the villa. "Make yourselves at home." The old man led them into the villa and left. In the middle of the elegant little garden, there were 2 round tables filled with all kinds of delicacies. Han Xiao stared at the table full of delicacies. Without any hesitation, he randomly picked a table and began to eat and drink. "Master, don't eat it. What if it's poisonous?" Feng Xiaoxiao said hurriedly. Han Xiao was the main force this time. If he was poisoned to death because of his greed, how could they explain it? "Don't worry. Since Grandpa dares to eat it, it must not be poisonous." Tang Lang was inexplicably confident in Han Xiao. Han Xiao looked like an idiot with 0 life skills, but in fact, he was very meticulous. Han Xiao and Tang Lang ate happily, but Feng Xiaoxiao and Tang Yi insisted on staying put. It was better to be safe. Han Xiao, Tang Lang, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiaoxiao sat at one table. Ning Shi, Lu Tingxiao, Yin Shun, and Lu Jingli sat at the other table. Lu Jingli looked around, puzzled. That's it. He didn't see anything special about the Sky Spring Villa. Even the Rothschild family didn't show up. What the hell were they doing? While he was puzzled, a flurry of footsteps came from afar. "Mr. Yin Shun, Mr. Lu, I'm glad you came. It's my honor." Accompanied by extremely fluent Chinese, the man walked out of the villa like stars surrounding the moon and walked to the table where Lu Tingxiao and Yin Shun were sitting. The man had a standard Western face. He was dressed luxuriously and had a gentle smile on his face. However, there was a trace of malice hidden in his light blue eyes. Around the man were some solemn men and women in formal wear. They seemed to be the top management and elite team of the company. "Don't stand on ceremony. Please take a seat." The man sat down on the main seat and greeted them with a smile. With that, he looked at Ning Shi in a gentlemanly manner and said, "You must be Mrs. Lu? She's indeed a beauty, just like the rumors say." Ning Shi blinked her eyes. Except for her typical smile, she didn't say a word and stayed by Lu Tingxiao's side, pretending to be obedient. At the next table, Tang Lang, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiaoxiao exchanged glances and maintained their vigilance. As for a certain Almighty, as usual, he didn't even lift his head. "Are you the lucky emperor?" Yin Shin stared at the man for a moment and smiled thoughtfully. "I didn't know that the head of the Rothschild family in Europe would be so young." He was obviously doubting the identity of the man in front of him. The man didn't mind. He smiled and replied politely, "Mr. Yin, it's not like that. The European emperor is just a title passed down. I'm not the European emperor. Everyone is here." "Third young master, please speak your mind," Lu Tingxiao said indifferently. Hearing Lu Tingxiao say, "third young master," the man's light blue eyes suddenly showed a trace of surprise. Chapter 21:33. The head of the Lu family was indeed not simple. No news about the Rothschild family had ever been spread, and no one had ever seen the children of the European emperor. However, the man in front of him was able to find out his true identity. "Ha! Mr. Lu is indeed well informed." The man smiled. "What's your purpose?" Lu Tingxiao went straight to the point. The man said politely, "Mr. Lu, Mr. Yun, I asked you to come here today because I have something to discuss with you." "Let's hear it," Yin Shun said casually. The man didn't care about Yin Shun's attitude. He wiped his hand with a napkin and said, "I hope to acquire Lu Group and Elon Ventures." As soon as the man finished speaking, a European woman walked over to Lu Tingxiao and Yin Shun with 2 thick documents and gently placed them on the table in front of them. "This is the preliminary contract. Mr. Yin and Mr. Lu can take a look first." We'll talk if you have any questions or dissatisfaction, the man said with a smile. Yunshin glanced at the two contracts and sneered. Acquiring Lu Group and Elon Ventures. How arrogant. Aren't you afraid of dying? Lu Tingxiao didn't speak. Instead, he picked up the contract and quickly flipped through it. Then, he put it down and said expressionlessly, "Sorry, I'm afraid I can't agree to your proposal." The man wasn't surprised by Lu Tingxiao and Yunshin's rejection. He smiled and said, "Mr. Lu, is it because the conditions aren't good enough? Actually, it's fine. This is just the preliminary contract. We can continue to discuss. Mr. Lu, feel free to ask for anything." Lu Tingxiao looked at the man with his emotionless eyes. Then, Lu Jingli walked out from behind Lu Tingxiao and took out two contracts. He said with a smile, "Mr. Byron, why don't you take a look at the contract we've prepared?" The man only glanced at the contents of the contract before his expression suddenly changed, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. These two small fries who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth actually wanted to buy his company? They were obviously humiliating him. "Mr. Lu, Mr. Yun, I came all the way to Asia just to acquire Lu Group and Elon Ventures. Your attitude puts me in a difficult position." As soon as he finished speaking, the gentlemanly look on Byron Rosher's face disappeared, and his eyes turned cold. "Oh, what do you want then?" Deep Cloud sneered. The man's eyes were cold. "I just want the two of you to sign the contract. Otherwise, I'm afraid the two of you won't be able to walk out of this heavenly spring manor." Yunshin laughed out loud. "Do you believe that you won't be able to leave China?" A thought-provoking sneer appeared on the man's face. "So what if I'm in China?" At this time, Han Xiao, who had been burying his head in food, licked the corner of his mouth and raised his head to look at Byron as he faintly said, "It's nothing much. It's a pity that your father didn't come." "I'm a little disappointed." Han Xiao. Byron stared blankly after seeing the person sitting in the corner of the neighboring table. He hadn't expected Cold Owl to be there, and his complexion finally changed. The only people he cared about here were Yunshin and Lu Tingxiao. He didn't pay much attention to the others. Who knew that Lu Tingxiao and Yunshin could actually invite this devil? He already knew that Han Xiao was helping Lu Tingxiao, but he didn't expect that with Han Xiao's personality, he would intervene to this extent. Chapter 2134. Unfortunately, the last time he sent out Xiao Zhan, he still failed to assassinate Xiao Zhan. Instead, Xiao Zhan died in China. Byron's expression turned even uglier as he looked at Han Xiao, who had once again ruined his plans. "Ha ha, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Are you excited?" Tang Lang said smugly when he saw Byron's expression. Byron stared at Han Xiao with a gloomy expression and fell into silence. "Well, it's rare that you guys are willing to come out. It saves me the trouble of going to Europe to look for you guys." Han Xiao stood up and yawned lazily. The corners of Byron's mouth curled up into a mocking sneer. "Hee, I didn't expect Grandpa Xiao to have fallen to such a state. I'm being ordered around by two small fries." Back then, Grandpa Xiao claimed. Byron turned to look at Han Xiao. Just as he was rambling on, his lungs nearly exploded in the next second. Han Xiao didn't take him seriously at all. He was discussing with a group of people. "Do you think his father will come out if we tie him up?" Han Xiao stared at Tang Lang. "God, that's not necessarily true." Tang Lang touched his chin. "The European emperor has so many sons and daughters." "I don't think so either." Feng Xiao also moved closer to Han Xiao. "I agree." Tang Yi nodded. "Then he's useless. Should we kill him or tie him up?" Han Xiao looked troubled. Ning she couldn't hold it in anymore. She went over to join the fun and suggested, "Why don't we tie him up first?" Tang Lang immediately said, "Grandpa, I think we should kill him and let him know how powerful Grandpa is." Feng Xiao said, "I agree with little junior sister. Why don't we tie him up and force the European emperor to come out?" Tang Yi said, "I'm fine with anything." Byron was so angry that he almost crushed his teeth. These people were actually discussing whether to tie him up or kill him in front of him. Who was he? He was the future European emperor. "Han Xiao, don't be too confident." As Byron's gloomy voice fell, Hundreds of well-trained and fully armed European emperors' forces surrounded the villa. Moreover, there were many snipers lying in ambush everywhere in the villa. After knowing that there was a sniper, the few of them immediately tensed up. These were not ordinary snipers. They were snipers specially trained by the Rochelle family. Apart from Han Xiao, who might be able to escape, every single one of them could kill them on the spot. Tang Yi, Tang Lang, Feng Xiao, and the others were on standby when a familiar voice rang out from behind them, causing their expressions to change. Third young master, everything is ready. They saw Qiao Yi leading a group of well-trained killers towards them. These killers were almost all of Qiao Yi's elite troops. He had been waiting for this day. Ningxi looked behind Qiao Yi but did not see Annie. She could not help but frown. Annie didn't come? Or was he unwilling to face them head-on? For a time, the two sides confronted each other, and the atmosphere was tense to the extreme. It was obvious that Byron was determined to get the Lu Group and Elan Ventures. No matter what, he had to get them. If soft tactics didn't work, he would use hard tactics. Master, long time no see. When Tang Lang saw Qiao Yi, his blood boiled and his expression darkened. Traitorous disciple. Qiao Yi snorted coldly when he saw Tang Lang. At this moment, Tang Lang's eyes were completely devoid of his usual carefree expression. There was not a trace of warmth in them. Just as well, why don't we settle all our scores today? Chapter 2135. Qiao Yi looked at Byron and lowered his head. Third young master, I'm sorry for the embarrassment. I might have some family matters to settle first. Byron looked as if he had everything under control and said with a relaxed expression, Mr. Qiao, feel free to do as you please. Qiao Yi looked at Tang Lang, and his gaze turned cold. Today, I'm going to clean up the house. Tang Lang narrowed his eyes and looked at Qiao Yi from head to toe. He was sure that Qiao Yi's body had not suffered any damage from Lu Tingxiao's torture. He was afraid that it was all thanks to that last Annie. It just so happened that he did not want to take advantage of her. Tang Yi and Feng Xiao looked at each other with complicated expressions. They had been worried before they came, and now the thing they were most worried about had happened. Tang Lang and Qiao Yi clashed, both of them using their killer moves. Because they knew each other's moves too well, it was hard to tell who would win, and neither could do anything to the other. However, 10 minutes later, there was a clear change in the situation. It was as if Tang Lang had suddenly been released from seal. He suddenly attacked fiercely, forcing Qiao Yi to have no chance to retaliate. Ning, she raised her eyebrows in surprise. Aren't those the Almighty's moves? A rare look of admiration appeared in Han Zhao's eyes. Not bad. You've learned a 10,000th of my essence. Ning Shi, Tang Yi, and Feng Xiao were speechless. With a loud bang, Tang Lang's thunderous palm struck towards Qiao Yi's Achilles heel. Seeing that Qiao Yi would definitely die, a figure suddenly flashed between the two of them and forcefully caught Tang Lang's palm. In that instant, Tang Lang and Tang Yi both took a few steps back due to the recoil. Tang Lang's eyes were bloodshot. Seeing that his plan to kill Qiao Yi had been foiled by Tang Yi, his face was filled with madness and malevolence. Get lost. Tang Yi threw his glasses away. You know it's impossible. I'll say it one last time. Why? Tang Yi asked persistently. Why? Tang Lang suddenly looked deranged. You killed my entire family and slaughtered my entire sect for him. Is this reason enough? Not only that, he had shamelessly taken him in as a disciple and made him work for the enemy who had killed his entire family. Tang Yi wasn't the only one who was stunned. Feng Xiao and Ning, she were also stunned. Master killed second senior brother's entire family? How is this possible? Ning, she glanced at Lu Tingxiao and saw the affirmative answer in his eyes. Back then, Tang Lang had asked Lu Tingxiao to investigate this matter. Tang Lang laughed uncontrollably. Tang Yi, why do you think I beat you every time? Do you really think I'm gifted? Because those martial arts were originally the secret arts of the Tang family. The blood of the Tang family flows in my veins. No one is more suitable for this cultivation technique than me. Tang Yi stood there with a pale face, unable to say a word. He looked at the man he had always respected as a father in disbelief. Master, she hoped that he could explain that it was a misunderstanding. However, even though Xiao Yi had been exposed in front of everyone, he did not feel the slightest bit guilty or remorseful. He did not even refute. He snorted coldly and said, "That cultivation technique would only be a waste in the hands of that useless Tang Zhan. I left his bloodline and inherited his cultivation technique. He should be thanking me in the underworld." Tang Lang's eyes were bloodshot. "Then you can go to the underworld to receive your thanks." Chapter 2136. Evil creature, if I hadn't taken. Before Xiao Yi could finish his sentence, Han Xiao, who was standing to one side, suddenly walked past Tang Lang and stood in front of Xiao Yi. "Hello," Han Xiao said with a sly smile. Xiao Yi was slightly taken aback when he saw the unfamiliar man in front of him. He knew of Han Xiao, but he had never seen him before, so he didn't recognize him. Before Xiao Yi could speak, the shadow of a palm suddenly flashed in front of him. Before the palm arrived, the wind from the palm arrived first, like a violent storm, causing Xiao Yi to turn pale. Xiao Yi didn't see when the man in front of him made his move, nor did he know what had happened. In an instant, the sound of a skull cracking could be heard. Blood flowed from Xiao Yi's eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. "Well, I greeted you, but you ignored me. I hate rude people the most. Apologize," Han Xiao said. "I'm sorry, I hit you too hard." Han Xiao stared at Xiao Yi's body, his face full of innocence. Xiao Yi's body fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Even in death, Xiao Yi didn't know why. Was it because he was rude and didn't respond to this evil man in time? At this moment, Tang Lang, who had been acting like a madman, was completely stunned on the spot. "My grandpa, my?" Tang Lang gestured excitedly. Xiao, you should have died by his hand. That was logical. He had been brewing his emotions for so long. And just as he was about to fight Xiao Yi, Han Xiao had killed Xiao Yi with one blow, making him feel like he had been fucked by a dog. But the moment Xiao Yi died by Han Xiao's hand, he subconsciously felt relieved and relieved. If Han Xiao hadn't intervened, he and Tang Yi would have had a fight. Tang Yi and Feng Xiao were also stunned. They didn't expect Han Xiao to suddenly make a move. Xiao Yi died just like that. Tang Ye's gaze trembled slightly. He clenched his fists tightly. But in the end, he couldn't say a word. Perhaps this was already the best ending, shouting, "It's rude." Han Xiao looked at Tang Lang. Tang Lang thought of Xiao Yi's fate and immediately choked, not daring to complain. "Han Xiao, you're too arrogant." Byron's expression turned cold when he saw that Han Xiao was arrogant enough to kill his men in front of him. Humph, it was just Xiao Yi. If he died, so be it. After Byron finished speaking, the corners of his mouth curled into a sinister smile. "Han Xiao, you should know this person, right?" A black-robed old man holding a dragon-headed cane walked out from the crowd at a steady pace. "Han Wuying?" Han Xiao stared at the black-robed old man with a slight frown. "Han Wuying, the patriarch of the Han clan." "Han Xiao, for the sake of a woman, you've betrayed the clan and betrayed your master. Today, this old man shall clean up the clan." Han Wuying's hoarse voice was filled with coldness. Because of a woman, he betrayed his master and killed his ancestors. Tang Lang and Ning, she were slightly surprised. They thought the Almighty didn't like women. Well, I was wondering why this kid from the Rothschild family was so calm when he saw me. It turns out that you're here to back him up. Han Xiao laughed in a low voice. "Han Wuying, I advise you not to overestimate yourself. You should know that in this world, only Qin Wentian has the qualifications to fight against me." This wasn't arrogance, it was the truth. Even if the patriarch of the Han clan was here, he wouldn't be a match for Han Wuying. Han Wuying's expression sank, but he didn't refute. It was a pity that Qin Wentian was nowhere to be found. If he joined forces with Han Wuying, he would definitely be able to take down this vile spawn. Chapter 2137. Bastard, I just need to stall you until Byron finishes his business. Let's see what you'll do then. Han Wuying shouted, turned into a black shadow, and rushed toward Han Xiao. The two of them were engaged in a fierce battle. Kill them, Byron immediately ordered when he saw Han Xiao was stalled. The snipers hiding in the dark aimed their guns at Yun Shun, Lu Tingxiao, and the others. Do you really think this is your territory? Yun Shun said with a cold smile. Lu Tingxiao was expressionless as usual, and his eyes fell somewhere in the dark. In an instant, hundreds of people rushed out of the villa and confronted the Rothschild family's forces. Byron was not afraid at all. He said with confidence and arrogance, "It'll only take a few seconds for my snipers to kill all of you." Tang Lang and the others quickly searched in the dark, trying to find the hiding place of those snipers. However, the professional snipers of the Rothschild family couldn't be found easily. Those snipers were like a ticking time bomb. It's too late for you to regret now. Byron's smile disappeared. Do it. As soon as he said that, a sigh came from not far away. The child has grown up, and his wings have hardened. An old man with white hair walked towards the crowd. Seeing the old man, all the forces of the Rothschild family were stunned, including Byron. Ning, she was the most shocked. She looked at the old man and blurted out, "Grandpa Zhuz, Xiaoxi, long time no see." Zhuz smiled gently and lovingly. "Father, why are you here?" Byron's expression changed again and again. "Father." Ning, she was stunned. Zhuz is Byron's father. Doesn't that mean Zhuz is the European emperor? Ning, she was stunned by this conclusion. She felt as if she had learned that the sweeping monk in the temple was a peerless master. "Byron, you disappoint me." Zhuz shook his head, and the unique dignity of a superior made Byron tremble involuntarily. Yun Shun and Lu Tingxiao looked at each other and understood the meaning of the European emperor's words. It seemed that Europe was not the one who wanted to annex Asia. "Father, listen to me. I'm doing this." Cold sweat trickled down Byron's forehead as he tried to explain. However, halfway through his words, he was interrupted by Zhuz. "Snipers hiding in the dark, come out," Zhuz said coldly. In the end, the air was completely silent. After a long while, a few people walked out with a rustling sound. Unexpectedly, there were only 3 people. Zhuz frowned. It was impossible for these people to disobey his orders. So what about the others? Zhuz pondered for a while and immediately understood. He looked at Lu Tingxiao and Yun Shun and sighed. The younger generation will surpass the older. His son's meticulous arrangements had long been seen through and more than half destroyed. Byron looked at the remaining 3 snipers and then at his father. He was completely confused at this moment. Damn it! His father had devoted himself to the movie industry and had long stopped caring about the family's affairs. How'd he find out about all this? "Father, if we annex Asia, our Rothschild family will become stronger," Byron said unwillingly. "Is this the reason why you went behind my back and disobeyed me?" Zhuz shouted coldly. "Is the Rothschild family stronger, or you, Byron?" That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.